Hello, good evening. Welcome everybody to our final cram ahead of our final exam. Isabel, this is indeed AQA. Welcome to all of you. I can see there are about 200 or 300 of you on already. Great to have you here so early, so keen, so ready to absolutely smash this. Path, start the live. I have started the live. Ritual, W haircut, thank you so much. Hi Zara, hi James. Ali, always a pleasure studying English with the best of the best. Me? You're too kind. You're too kind. Amber, I'm good. How are you? Thank you, Mr. Fan9. Nice haircut. Thank you so much. James, excited never to do English again. That's totally fair. That's totally fair. Loads of you guys will, this will be the last time that you do English. You're ticking the GCSE box and then you can say goodbye to it forever. Kellyanne, yes, this is AQA. I'm just going to write AQA on the screen here because I imagine a lot of people will be asking the same question. So I'm going to try and nip it in the bud. AQA is obviously our focus. All right. P. Coombs, what will only studying for an hour get me? We're going to do 3 hours if you stay with me for the whole time. So 3 hours will get you 3 times as much as 1 hour would get you. Hi, Barbie. I'm good. How are you? Yo, Shannon. Bobby is my father, I'm so cooked, Karen Louis. We got this, bro, we got this. You got this. Looking forward to after the exam, Millie. Yeah, totally fair. Joy, can we just talk about how bad paper 1 is? Yeah, a lot of people didn't like paper 1. I know it's been a little while now, like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I mean, a lot of mixed feelings on that one. Sienna, A-level English, is that your plan? Love that. Love that, that's awesome. JS, it's not that it will be bad for EdXL, but it might be confusing. You can stick around and see how useful it feels to you if you're with a different exam board. Lucy, yes, I do know what A-level English language is like. I taught it for about 10 years and I studied it myself about 15, 16 years ago. I love it, amazing. But it's all about linguistics and sociolinguistics, not so much about the kind of stuff that we do for GCSE language. Paper 2 is the hardest being due. Well, we got this, man, we got this. Do you know when we're going to move on to question 5? Alex, I don't. We're kind of just going to run straight through with a break, brief kind of break in the middle. Race, I'm all right, mate. Yeah, thank you. Mia, am I an examiner? I have been for 10 years. I'm not currently examining, so I'm not examining this summer. Panic, A-level literature. Great shout. Love that as well. All right, cool. Shall we jump into a little bit of a hello, an introduction? That photo of me makes me look better than I do right now in this slightly dodgy lighting, but we will move. So hi, I'm Louis, Head of English here at My Headspace. Just in case you don't know who I am already, if you don't follow me on socials or come to our main course, I'm a fully qualified English teacher, over 11 years of teaching experience. Did English at Oxford and Cambridge, got master's degrees from both of them. 9 years, it was actually 10 in the end, of experience working alongside English exam boards, including, crucially for today's purposes, AQA. Okay, so that's me. I'm not aura farming, trumping my own trumpet, or self-glazing or whatever. But it's worth knowing that you can trust me. I've been there. I've been done that. Joy, was 1 Oxbridge not enough? Nah, had to complete it. Didn't feel like a complete set without both of them. Aura farming, yeah. You guys share all the aura. Can I show which questions we'll be doing? Radiant, we'll be doing all of paper 2. Gaming Fat, are you a model or something? I was once told I'd make a great paper bag model, as in, put a paper bag over my head and then I would look fantastic. Which was one of the best compliments I've ever had, because it was telling me I had a great bod. All right, so a couple of FAQs. So any key questions that you might want to ask, these I'm hoping will answer some of them. All right, so these sessions are geared towards AQA. We have just slightly over 80% of the country do AQA for GCSE English language. Which texts are covered? It is going to be 2 pieces of unseen non-fiction. Okay, that's the key for language paper 2. It's 2 pieces, and that's the key thing to remember. And it is non-fiction. All right. Hatim, you're asking about watching the main course lessons. I mean, I'm not sure you'd be able to get through all of them tonight, because that would be like 8 lessons worth in 8 hours. I would recommend sticking here. You can go to YouTube and obviously my resources, which I'll show you later. A-Boy will answer that question when we get to that particular question, okay? One of the exams, tomorrow, obviously, Friday, 6th of June, is that final exam. This will be recorded, so you can come back on the same link later on, click on the same link that you used to get here, and let's say that you have to, let's say you have to go for dinner, or go to another live stream. I know there are other ones going on tonight. You can always just come back and check it out later. Okay, I will try and have some breaks, semi-regular intervals to breathe, mostly for me. What do the mods do? You'll notice that you can see Vanny is here, Ria is here. I can't see who else was here, but we've got a bunch of moderators. They're going to answer any technical questions like downloading the workbook, sharing links with you, helping you if you need kind of with any connection issues, any of that kind of stuff. And they're going to keep things respectful, so we're going to be nice to each other and efficient, moving as quickly as possible. All right. P. Coombs, how many marks is a grade 5? That's going to differ every year. Connor, yeah, this is AQA, that question there, as with 80% of the country. Okay, cool. So use the chat to contribute suggestions and ask questions, nothing else please. So no side missions, no chats about football, ideally no chats about Eid as much as we're completely looking forward to it, particularly after the exam. Try and keep it as focused as possible. No spam, so no just chucking random things into the chat. No beef, so no beefing with each other or me. I'm a vegetarian, so I do not appreciate spam or beef here. Keep questions relevant to the text or exam unit currently being addressed. So please don't ask me about question 5 when we're doing question 1 and vice versa. Okay, so try and keep it as relevant as possible. Okay, the workbook, which you can obviously download now, you can of course record your notes, practice the questions in. It'll be a revision guide for later. When I say later, I mean literally like later on tonight or tomorrow morning. Cool. Yeah, of course, Eid Mubarak. No doubt about it, I have tons of love for that. Let's remember our humanity, okay? So just let's be kind, let's be lovely. Exemplar answers, Aishani Roy, yeah, we're gonna be doing some together. All right, so if you can think of any of your friends who are not on this stream who might benefit from doing this stream, just click on the top, copy and paste that link, share it in your group chats, whatever, okay? Just share it around. Let's have more people on board. Quick thing before we jump straight in. Nahum, you left a review yesterday. Thanks so much. Hopefully it was a good one. Yeah, Sam Locke, thank you for answering Steezy's question. We don't use past exam papers because obviously we're a for-profit organisation, so we can't use copyrighted materials like that. So we use past, we make our own papers instead of using past papers. All right, okay, subscriber only mode is on, I think. If it's not, then lucky you. If you want to subscribe anyway, then do feel free. It makes me feel really special. Mia, I wouldn't recommend it if someone's doing EdXL for English, unless you just want his company, which, that's up to you. Smash that like button, make me feel very special. Turn on notification. I mean, this is shameless plugging when you guys may never come back to me after tomorrow's exam. So let's jump into why we're here. All right. Panic, is it possible for my X-Ret to come up tomorrow? There's like a 1 in a million chance for sure, because it's an existing text, like we didn't make it up here. So it's entirely possible, but incredibly unlikely. And even if it did, the question would probably be difficult. Huda, you smashed the like button, now your laptop doesn't work. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have said gently tap the the like button. Shannon, hoping for a grade 8. Wicked. Love to see it. Your sister's going to join. Nice one, Samuel. We love to see it. How's my handwriting today, Samuel? I know you always want to comment on it. All right, guys, so first question. Paper length and marks available. How long is this paper? How long in terms of time? Jump in with these answers, guys. Let's have a quick reminder of the overview to the question. Thank you, Samuel. Appreciate that, buddy. 1 hour 45. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Hamza. Loads of you saying 1 hour 45. All right, I'm glad that we are pretty confident. Seeing a couple of people saying 2 hours or 1 hour 30. Maybe you guys are on different exam boards, or indeed you have extra time. But it is 1 hour 45. How many marks is that? How many marks are available? Hi, Olivia. What's up? Ethan, 6,300 seconds. Okay, 80 marks, okay, good, 80 marks, which is of course 40 marks on section A, 40 marks on section B. 40 marks on section B are, of course, 24 and 16 for AO5 and AO6. Okay, with that in mind, guys, with that in mind, it might be worth converting 1 hour 45 into minutes. How many minutes is that? You heard it here first, guys, cross-curricular maths in an English lesson. 1 hour 45 is how many minutes? Nahum, thank you so much, buddy. 105, good stuff. You guys are rapid mathematicians in the house, we love to see it. So it's 105 minutes, which is going to make the calculations for the recommended timings a little bit easier. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is talk about the kind of the dead time, okay? So the non-writing time, which is here and here. So at the beginning of the two sections of the paper, how long would I recommend you spend on reading questions, reading both sources, and performing mastery, where you do very, very basic annotations? What do we think? Alamadulia, I wouldn't recommend doing question 5 first, no. All right, 15 minutes, guys. 15 minutes for this whole job. 15 minutes, which includes reading the questions, reading both of the sources, and performing mastery, which is a quick bit of annotation on each of the paragraphs, okay? So you kind of zoom through. Tamina, can you use Camp and Gas for tomorrow's exam for the extracts and the writing? Yeah, for sure. Last time you did 50 minutes. Abdurrahman, you did 50 minutes of annotations. That is wild, my guy. Let me say, the Light Up Hub said to do question 5 first. Totally fine. There's nothing wrong with doing question 5 or section B first. It's purely a preference thing. Purely a preference thing. Okay? As long as you move on at the right time and you spend the right amount of time on each one, it really depends on your energy. Some people run out of energy and therefore they want to save their energy for the 40 marker. Totally fair. Oh, you were joking, Abdurrahman. I'm glad. Okay, and how many minutes would you spend planning on question 5? How many mins for planning? Yeah, I mean all 5, but really the first 4 questions, Chelsea. Okay, lots of people saying 5, some people saying 15, some people saying 5 to 10. I would recommend saying 10 minutes. 10 minutes of planning. Anam, can you start? This is part of the process, my guy. So I have started in a technical sense. Okay, with that in mind, guys, what does that mean in terms of our minutes per mark? Because I think it makes things really smooth and easy if we can write off those 25 minutes. Okay, we've got 15 minutes there, 10 minutes here. 25 minutes are gone, meaning we have how many minutes left? Good, we have 80 minutes left, which means we have a minute per mark, which simplifies things so much when you've already laid the groundwork of doing your mastery, okay? And when you've done your planning there, you can actually fit those things in for a minute per mark, which means that you're gonna have 4 minutes to do question 1, 8 minutes for question 2, 12 minutes for question 3, 16 minutes for question 4, and 40 minutes for question 5, okay? Now remember, that is actual writing time, okay? You've done your annotations, you've done your planning. It's just a kind of key thing to remember. A boy, how do you even know you've gotten that mark? You don't think about it in terms of I'm making a mark per minute. You just think this question, I'm going to split it up in terms of how valuable this question is in terms of the whole paper. Okay, so it's just a way of dividing up your time. It's not about getting a minute, getting a mark every minute that you're working for. Because obviously some of your marks you've gained literally in that initial process. All right. DIY, can I go over question 5? Yes, I'm going to do that later on in tonight's lesson. All right. Mindao, that's crazy. Spend 1 hour on section A and 45 minutes on section B, your school would say. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways of doing this. The only reason that I recommend starting with your 15 minutes of mastery and doing your 10 minutes of planning is number 1, to simplify all of these figures, okay, into just, I'm going to spend a minute per mark here, which makes life much easier. But also just because if you've done this amount of time on the sections, then you're going to end up with better responses, okay? Right, couple of quick things to remember about the like top hot tips. Question 2 versus question 4, what's the difference? What's the difference between question 2 and question 4? Oliver, you can mix up the order of the questions. I don't recommend doing it. I recommend just going through the paper. SR, or is it Senor? Your teacher said question 2 is the hardest. Is that true? I don't think so, and I'm going to show you a way of doing it easily tonight. Yeah, beautiful stuff, guys. Summary versus comparison, synthesis and inference analysis with subject. So to me, a really, really nice detailed language there. But it's basically one is summary and synthesis. Now, synthesis is literally just talking about the text at the same time. And then question 4 is actual comparative analysis, okay? They're both going to ask you to use both texts, but question 4 is a lot more detailed. So summary, you're going to summarize the difference, synthesizing the text, bringing them together. Navashen, what is mastery? I'll show you in a minute. We're going to do that first, once we've done these questions. Nahom, obviously not. No, don't revise late into the night. Make sure you get your sleep. Okay, cool. Cool. Ibrahim, I'm sure that content creator doesn't need someone advertising on their behalf. I'm sure they have plenty of followers who are going to be going there. They don't need your help, but it's really kind of you to advertise for them. All right, question 5. Key thing to remember for question 5. What do you do with your point of view? What's important about your point of view, which is different from, let's say, question 1 with the evaluation question? Sorry, paper 1 evaluation. What's the difference? What do you think? It's only a 7. Okay, I'll lose everyone at 7 then. That's fine. Argue it exactly. Argue hard, okay? Your point of view is what you're trying to get across. You're not going, here are some reasons to believe it, and here are some reasons not to believe it. You're going, this is my point of view, this is why it is the correct point of view, and here is why all of the wrong points of view are indeed wrong, okay? So you want to go hard with your argument. It doesn't mean you don't acknowledge the counter argument, but you smash it to pieces, okay? So that counter argument that lots of you are mentioning, it doesn't mean you go, well, I also think the opposite. Nah, that weakens your argument. What you do with a counter argument is you say, some people might argue this for these reasons. Here is why they're dead wrong, and I am the smartest chap in the universe. Immortal, what do you do for question 2? We will get there. All right, let's go. So we're going to jump in, first of all, with text mastery, okay? So the first thing you guys are going to do when you get into the exam is you're going to read the questions that are there, okay? Read those questions that are there straight away, and the questions are as follows, okay? These are the questions that are going to come up, okay? So question 1 is always going to say, choose 4 statements below which are true, okay? That's not going to change on any exam paper that you have. Someone just said question 1 is a time suck. Vernalty, you're absolutely right. A lot of people spend ages on it. We're going to zoom through it just to show you how rapid fire it can be. Okay? Exactly, Ace clips, YouTube, I'm right, you're wrong kind of situation. You got it, my guy. Okay, so choose 4 statements. Not really worth reading that question. Just skip straight across it. Okay? Use details from both sources. Okay, so we know that this is going to be some synthesis. It is a summary. The differences between the conditions in which the chimney sweeps work, okay? So it seems like these texts are going to be about chimney sweeps, all right? James, question 1 is not true or false, it's just 4 truths, okay? All right, okay. Question 3, how does the writer use language to describe the hardships endured by the chimney sweeps? Okay, that's going to be our focus there. And then question 4, compare how the writers convey their different perspectives on the job of chimney sweeping. Okay, so the questions here, you'll notice that they are super duper easy. Okay, there's nothing complicated about them as long as you read them carefully. The texts say, source A is an extract from an article on the BBC News website published in 2010, describes the increasing popularity of chimney sweeping as a career. Source B is from a speech from 1864 about the exploitation of young chimney sweeps. So already we're starting to realize, okay, these 2 things are going to have different vibes, okay? Anam, please stop doing all right. You don't like me going, all right. Well, I'm going to do it twice as much just for you. No, I'm joking. Okay, so once we know what the questions are, we can go in with a bit of preparation, okay? So here is text source A, okay? And it's gonna look like this, okay? So you're gonna have a little introduction at the top, and I've just made a quick note on the side of, of what questions and focuses I'm gonna need to have, okay? So I'm gonna think about that in a second. And just a quick note, those of you who love promoting other creators, they don't need your help, my friend. Divine does PvP. We're going to go over to how to structure all of the different not different text types. We're going to focus specifically on a speech tonight, but we can chat briefly about the other text types for sure. Okay, so source A, I'm going to be going through, I'm going to be thinking about the conditions, okay, in question 2. And what does it say? Question 2, details, okay. So question 2 and 4 are the only ones that are going to be using source A, when they're going to be the comparative ones, okay? James, no, don't go promoting me elsewhere. Again, we don't need it. People who are here because they want to be here. All right, Millie Brown, you can exaggerate in question 5. Ask me that later though, okay? So, source A, popularity of chimney sweeping as a career. I'm thinking about the conditions they're in, okay? Associated with the bygone age of child labour and smoke-filled skies, chimney sweeps are reporting a mini revival. Why? They might be considered lucky. Okay, so I'm thinking conditions, perspectives. Might be considered lucky. They might, thanks to a certain, in fact, you know what, I'm going to get a highlighter. Guys, bring a highlighter into the exam. They might be considered lucky. They might, thanks to a certain 1964 Walt Disney movie, be portrayed as nifty dancers. But there is little about the popular conception of chimney sweeps that evokes modern Britain. Okay, so it's not a modern thing that we think about. Mention the trade and the associations conjured up are of distant Victorian pre-radiator era. Grim, soot-filled skies, small urchins compelled to spend long days toiling up chimneys, Dick Van Dyke's abysmal Cockney accent, okay? Yet as autumn dawns and householders across the country prepare to have their flue swept, one intended consequence of the credit crunch has been a resurgence in demand for the service. Okay, so when we're going through, guys, literally all I'm doing here is I'm not annotating anything, I'm just zooming through with a highlighter to kind of draw attention to what's going on. Okay, and when I've done that, I'm going to scribble a couple of words next to each paragraph, okay? So that first paragraph is quite literally just talking about the resurgence and, I guess, like misconceptions. That's what that paragraph is about. So I'm going to write it on the side to refer back to later. Then I'm going to carry on reading. What is it that I'm highlighting? Someone just asked. I'm highlighting anything where it mentions conditions of the chimney sweeps or perspectives about it, okay? Bear does GCSE, of course you're allowed to bring a highlighter. My friend. The 1956 Clean Air Act, which enforced the use of smokeless fuels in many areas, may have been good for the environment and the quality of life of millions, but it proved devastating to a centuries-old occupation often passed down from father to son. Okay, centuries-old occupation passed down from father to son makes it seem like it is a noble tradition. However, according to the National Association of Chimney Sweeps, NACS, recent years have seen their members having to juggle extra demand. Having to juggle extra demand suggests the conditions are tricky, an influx of new trainees. Thanks to soaring gas prices, sales of wood-burning and multi-fuel stoves rose in 40% in 2008 as homeowners attempted to cut their bills. This in turn has meant more chimneys needing to be regularly cleaned and more business for the small self-employed army of sweeps. Okay, so self-employed army giving an impression of the perspectives of it. Okay? Do I recommend paragraph structures? Jalab, yeah, there are some paragraph structures for the writing, certainly. Okay, this paragraph then is basically about the Clean Air Act, isn't it? Clean Air Act and, I guess, versus gas prices. Okay, and that's what has had the impact on the profession. Okay, so each paragraph, I'm just doing a couple of words to summarize it. It's going to be easier to refer back to later. Jaheim, yes, for both tests. James, also you're allowed to bring a flashcard full of notes. No, you're not. Not for this exam. Maybe you're talking about another one. Okay, all of this is a welcome surprise for my man, Martin Glynn, who is president of the NACS, represents its 250 members. On the one hand, Mr. Glynn, okay, welcome surprise, who runs BG Wright Master Sweep Services in Orpington, Kent, love that business name, talks wistfully of the trade's traditions and customs. He enunciates with audible pride, a third generation sweep. Okay, so we're getting a lot of stuff that we are happy about. Can you use your calculator? I don't think you would be banned from bringing it in. Nothing is asked. You're so confused. How do you know what it is that you need to highlight? So if you have a look at the top right, the question 2, is asking about the conditions of chimney sweepers, and question 4 is going to be asking about perspectives on chimney sweepers. So I'm highlighting anything that mentions their conditions or perspectives that these authors have on them. Okay? So I'm not doing any annotations yet because I can do that when we come to the question. James, unfortunately, no geography. I didn't actually do geography GCSE, so it's been about 19 years since I've done it. All right. He also talks somberly of the NACS's strict accreditation scheme, the NVQ in chimney engineering, typically undertaken by its members, 4,000 worth of CCTV equipment used by modern sweeps such as himself. These days, we aren't the men with a stick and brush that you saw in Mary Poppins, he says. It's not easy, okay? Not easy conditions. It's hard physical work, which is why so many sweeps are ex-services. You have to be careful, because the soot is carcinogenic. Again, conditions here. All right, but I tell you, you never need to go to the gym, and when you're up there on the roof, the chimney pots, there's nothing like it. Nothing like it. Oh, that's a nice perspective. I don't mind getting dirty. Now I can identify all different types of soot. Coal soot, wood soot, oil soot. It's a fascinating job. I'm gonna have to take his word for it. It doesn't sound fascinating to me. Okay, this paragraph is all about my man Martin Glynn, and I guess the pros and cons of being a modern chimney sweep. And then the final paragraph, Lashman Singh, 60, has been a sweep for 30 years in Bradford, West Yorkshire, and is old enough to remember the days before the Clean Air Act. Although the trade has been good to him, he has no desire to return to its heyday. As a child growing up, everything in Bradford was dark, dismal, and black, he says. We wouldn't want to go back to that. To me, it's a job, a way of making a living, okay? So it's about more of an obligation here. What I like is the variety of people that you meet. Everyone has different ornaments and decorations on their mantelpiece. These guys live such a thrilling life, don't they? And then, so this final paragraph is about my guy, Lashman, and he's glad about the law, basically, how the law has changed and made things better for chimney sweeps. Okay? MLR, is question 2 always about conditions and question 4 on perspectives? No. Question 4 is almost always going to be on perspectives, but question 2 can be about anything, and it's usually what the topic of the text is. Okay? Source B now, we're going to do the same thing, but notice that we have 3 questions here. Question 2 about conditions, question 4 about perspectives. We've already talked about that, okay? So we're going to be looking out for the same things. But we're also going to look when we get to question 3, lines 20 to 28. This section, we're also going to be focusing on language surrounding hardships, so how hard it is for these people. Godiva, resurgence means a return in popularity. Okay? All right. Tamsid, what do you do if you don't understand the text? Try and find the bit that you do understand. Maharshi, my table creaked. It's probably my heavy elbows. Okay. Lisa Cook, we'll talk about how to analyze a quote when we get on to question 3. Okay, so we're going to go through and read this second source. Now, this is from a speech, and it is in 1864, so when chimney sweeping was obviously much more intense. You can do it in 3 different colours, Jim Boy, if you've got enough brain space to do that, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. Hi, Alaid. Good to see you, buddy. All right. According to the report of a local association, there were in Birmingham 14 boys employed. That doesn't seem to be relevant to conditions or perspectives. 2 being under 12 years of age. Okay, under 12 years of age, 2 under 10, 1 under 9, and 1 only 7 years old. Okay, so the age of these guys. Could you use another colour? You certainly could. Or do you mean you want me to? Birmingham mentioned. We love Birmingham. I'm from Birmingham. In 1863, the same association reported that 22 children of tender age, okay, so they are young, probably shouldn't be doing that, were employed in Birmingham as climbing boys. In Nottingham, according to the evidence of a chimney sweeper, the law against climbing boys was a dead letter, okay? So it wasn't stopping them from actually doing the job even though they shouldn't, okay? The coroner, Mr. Brown, had given evidence of having held inquest on 2 boys who had died from injuries, they had received in their attempts to go up a chimney. Okay, so clearly we've got some heavy bidness going on here. So I'm just, for this paragraph, this first paragraph is essentially what could we say? A couple of words as we just sort of zoom through. Kean doesn't love Birmingham. That's a shame. I love Birmingham. So it is about, I guess, sympathy. Sympathy for boys. And we've got some stats, haven't we? Plus some stats. Okay, next paragraph. In Stalybridge. Ooh, Stalybridge. I don't know where that is. In Stalybridge, it was found that boys were plied with beer. Okay, plied with beer. Maybe that's enjoyable, maybe not, although they are very young, so probably not. Going to be feeling sick. Can you annotate the extract in the exam, Leah? Yes, you can and you should. Okay. And 2 boys had swept 78 chimneys in 2 days. Okay, so hard work relating to the conditions, right? Lots of hard work. In a prosecution at the latter place, the prisoner said to one of the sitting magistrates, "You know my boy sweeps your chimneys." At Wolverhampton, according to the service, the system was encouraged by the local officials and the Act of Parliament was a dead letter. Again, the dead letter thing about the law not working to keep these young people safe. Mariam, how can you differentiate which one is a condition and which one is a hardship? So like I said, you can use different colours if you want to, but the perspectives are going to be, with the hardships bit, they're going to overlap. Very good question. So yeah, hardship, when we get to lines 20 to 28, okay, so which I've highlighted here, they will overlap. So you can just focus kind of on both at the same time. Gabriel, this paper is an hour and 45. And this session tonight is until 8:30. For the chimney sweeps, the town hall was swept by boys. At Sheffield, 22, Winchester 14, Newcastle 10 climbing boys were employed. Okay, so again, we've got some statistics, might be relevant, might not be. And at Walthamstow, the flue of the parish church had to be swept by a boy who, owing to its peculiar formation, had to go into it head downwards. Had to go into it head downwards, that sounds very unsafe. Okay, the barbarous practice, I mean, this is going to be a big one. I'm actually just going to put an exclamation mark next to that because barbarous practice is pretty intense emotive language. Was on the increase, and at Buckingham in particular, it was reported that boys were preferred by most tradespeople, the gentry, and particularly by one of the members of the town, though the other member had used all the appliances of the law to put down this system. Okay, now we're going to be thinking in this paragraph about the hardships of the boys. Hyper, could you use A for us for the exam? For question 5, yes, not for any of the others. Okay. All right, a master sweep at Nottingham described the manner in which the limbs of the poor children, okay, poor children, were hardened for their work. They were rubbed with the strongest brine. Sounds awful. The master compelling them by coaxing or by blows, so by blows meaning to hit them. Submit to the process. Sounds awful, a little longer. When the little sufferers, emotive language, first went out to work, they returned with their flesh bruised and bleeding, consequences of it. But their wounds were again rubbed with brine. Again rubbed with brine. Bad times. Some children did not become hardened for years. Years, okay, this is going on for a long time. 4.5 was a good age to begin, so they're too young. Fearful training. Their bodies were deformed, covered over with sores. Sooty cancer also prevailed among these children who had to sleep 9 and 12 in a bed, had to in the most fetid atmosphere, okay? So we've got all the things to do with the hardships they've experienced. Okay, have I missed any questions? Hans, Nathan, good to have you here, buddy. You'll come back in a few years for GCSE, yeah? Angela, this is for AQA, yes indeed. Will the sources be from different eras? Lisa, yes, usually source B will be an older text, okay? Is this useful for Educas? Somewhat, Angelina, you can decide. Fetid means gross, disgusting, unpleasant. Would it make sense to highlight question 2 and question 4 in different colours? It might do, Island, but you're going to plan both of them very quickly anyway. Okay, so let's jump into question 1 because it's super easy, super quick. Now, a couple of things I'm just going to point to above my head. Details from examiner reports, the things that examiners are really bothered about when it comes to question 1. So the first thing is, the percentage of students scoring 4 out of 4 for this question is 70%, okay? So the vast majority of people are getting all of the marks for this question, meaning that it's not a differentiator, okay? It is not something that we feel, it's not something that we feel like the students should spend too much time on because it's not going to separate them from other people because most people are just getting those 3 or 4 marks. Travis, yeah, that's a mistake on the workbook. It's obviously GCSE. Year 9 and 10 shouldn't be doing this. Enzo, exactly that. Read questions first, annotate the text, answer the questions in that order. Okay, so because 70% of people are getting all the marks, the majority of people are getting at least 3 out of the 4 marks, don't spend too long on this question, okay? You need basically retrieval, finding the facts, and inference, where you work out what something means in a very basic way. An unexpected challenge was discerning the vocabulary. Sometimes the language in the question threw people off, okay? So if I just go through and I have a look at the some of the words here, profession most people would get, but some people don't. Associated with, some people might struggle with. Evokes is quite a high level. Cockney, we might not understand, but it is in the text. Recession, people might not understand. So what the examiners noticed is that some people didn't discern, meaning understand, the vocabulary. Okay, so just something to bear in mind. Make your best guess. Okay? Unexpected error, some people were not using the grid. So some people were going true, 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 and they were getting 0 marks. Okay? What are you supposed to do instead of writing true, 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 true? Sounded like a train for a second. Tabby, inference question, not really, because you're not writing any inference, but sometimes you need to infer what is meant by some of the questions. Okay? Now I'm going to pick 2 of the worst sources. Well, sometimes they're going to be hard. Exactly, guys. So you're not going to get marks if you write true and false down the side. You have to be shading the boxes, okay? So these boxes here, these little circles are to be shaded. Make sure that you do that so you get the marks. All right. Okay. I nearly did the special all right there. Barbarous, Anna, means really brutal and unpleasant. SL UK Productions, tick 'em. I would not tick them, I would shade them, because that's what you're asked to do in the question. Assumed faux pas. Examiners think that students were spending too much time on this. As someone rightly said earlier, it is a time suck. How long are we going to spend on it? How many mins? You like the special all right? We got some mixed opinions here about the all right. Nice one, guys. We're going to spend 4 minutes, okay? I'm going to put this little squiggle here. It's called a tilde. It means approximately, okay? We're going to spend approximately 4 minutes on this question. If you can spend less, even better, okay? Maximum of 5, though, because then you're going to lose marks from elsewhere. Okay, should we answer the question and then maybe have a short break? What do we think of that? What do you think of that bright idea, friends? What do we think? Happy with that? Why wasn't question 1 included in the mastery, Jalal? Because you can do it as you go. There's no annotation required for this question. Okay, we'll take a short 2-minute break after we've done this question. Thank you, Lost to Sebastian. I like it too. Okay, so what do we do when we go through this question? Well, we go through and we very quickly, just for our own notes, we annotate down the side true, false, or question mark. And if we've got 4 true, then we just shade the boxes. If we've got not enough truths, we go to our question marks. If the question marks don't bring us another truth, then we go to our falses and see if we were maybe wrong. Okay? So. First one then. Chimney sweeping is associated with child labour. Okay? Associated with the bygone age of child labour and smoke-filled skies, chimney sweeps are reporting mini revival. Okay? So chimney sweeping, are associated with the bygone age of child labour. That seems true, doesn't it? Okay, so we're going to put a true here, and then we can fill in the box when we're really sure later. B, chimney sweeps are reporting that fewer people are joining the profession. Well, let's go through, shall we? Let's see if that's true. Why? They are reporting a mini revival. Okay, a revival seems to suggest the opposite. So lots of people in the chat correctly are saying F, and I agree with you. Seems to be the opposite of that. Okay, then we're going to go through and we're going to find chimney sweeping evokes images from Victorian Britain. Okay, they might be considered lucky, Saltman, nifty dances, little about the popular exception evokes modern Britain. Mention the trade, associations conjured up a distant Victorian era. Okay, associations, Victorian pre-radiator era. That makes it seem, as you guys are saying, like it is true. Okay. Dick Van Dyke has a convincing Cockney accent. Well, let's see what it says about his accent in the text, because it mentions his accent. I remember that. Let's see if it's true. Dick Van Dyke's abysmal Cockney accent. Okay, this might be a bit where people run into the problem of discerning vocabulary. What does abysmal mean in the chat, guys? What does abysmal mean? Anyone know what abysmal means? Yeah, it means bad, it means terrible, it means awful. Abysmal. All right, it's terrible. Which means that this is in fact false. Okay, if it is convincing, it says here, but it's abysmal, an accent here, it of course must be false. So that threw a lot of people off, right? A lot of people were thrown off by that one because of the language they have to discern, which is why we might come back to that question after. All right, just for you, Adam. Okay, the increased demand for chimney sweeps is the result of a recession. Well, let's see what it is. Is it to do with a recession? Their flu sweat, credit crunch has been a resurgence in demand. Oh, credit crunch. I'd say a credit crunch is similar to a recession. Okay, so that looks to be lots of people saying true for that one, right? Increased demand, result of the recession, credit crunch. Yeah, seems true, okay? We're going to go through. Next one, the Clean Air Act. Oh, it mentions the Clean Air Act, doesn't it? Well, let's see if it was passed in 1965 or if it mentions another year. The 1956 Clean Air Act. Ooh. Okay, so this is where if you were a little bit numerically dyslexic or dysnumeric, you might have got those numbers mixed up when you read through 56 and 65. Therefore, that is false. Okay, definitely false. Next one. G. NACS stands for the National Association of Chimney Sweeps. National Association of Chimney Sweeps. Okay, so that looks like it's true as well. And then NACS has 250 members. Let's see. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Thanks to soaring gas prices. Does it say that? I've seen the members juggling. Thanks to soaring gas prices, 40% tempted to cut their bills, blah, 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 clean more. Self-employed army of chimney sweeps across the country. Why are we saying that one's false, guys? Because I definitely remember reading that at some point. In fact, I remember reading that, where is it? Let me find it in text. In source A, Martin Glynn, president of NACS, represents its 250 members. There are 250 members in NACS, so why is this one not true? Well done, guys. I'm so glad I put that one in there just to fox you. I'm going to put a cross here instead of a false because it is from outside of the lines, okay? So the bit about 250 members comes up later. Okay, so well done, you guys. It is later in this text, not in the associated lines, which some people fall afoul of. Okay, so let's see how many truths we've got. Let's see how many truths we've got. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Winner, winner. Okay, happy with that? Georgia Rose, do you find the statements as you move down text? Yeah, they tend to be in chronological order, so you should find the answer to your query as you go through. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so we're going to go through. There are 4 that we've said are true, so we can shade 4. So it's going to be A, C, E, and G. Okay, we happy with that? Easy breezy. Okay, shall we take a quick break? Yeah? Happy with a quick break? Okay, so let's take a quick little break. Back at, let's say, 18. Nice, okay? So 5 minutes, have a breather, have a drink. Obviously you wouldn't do this in your exam. Just to clarify, don't do this in your exam, take 5 minutes, but we're gonna have a quick little break. Okay, back in a minute. Nice one, guys. Thank you. Yo. Hey guys, I'm back. How are we all doing? Good to see you all chatting. DIY, Louis does English. Is question 3 the same as question 2 on language paper 1? The skill is exactly the same, but you have, you're getting more marks for the one on paper 2, so you would obviously do a little more detail. Okay. The goat is back. Thank you, buddy. Much appreciated. All right, cool. So let's rock and roll. Okay, so there we are. We're happy with question 1. We've nailed our 4 easy marks along with 70% of the country. Okay, now the next question, question 2, is a really controversial one. Okay. Oh, sorry. Just to answer a question which was coming up. There's been no leaked paper. There has never been a leaked paper. Anyone trying to point you towards a leaked paper is trying to prank you or scam you or, you know, screw you over. So just assume that the paper hasn't been leaked. If a paper had been leaked, they would have used a backup paper. Okay, so it's not going to happen. I promise you. James Grooves, Yellow, do us a favour and do the exam for us, mate. I mean, I could do, but there's like 900 of you on here, so I can't do it for all of you. Sorry. Sorry. Yes, this is for AQA, still for AQA. Okay. If someone leaked the exam with Jonathan Hoss, they would lose their job. They would probably be fined or sued by the company, and it just wouldn't happen. You'd be in massive trouble, and also it wouldn't benefit anyone because people would find out, and therefore it would be a different paper that was sat by everyone. Okay, so don't buy into the hype of leaked papers. It's not going to serve you well. Okay. Ibrahim, would you mind if I went on a call with you and you told me the answers in the exam? To be honest, you probably won't be allowed your phone, buddy. Plus, I'm going to be elsewhere. All right, let's go. So, have a look at question 2. What is the purpose of question 2? What are you trying to do in question 2? What things do you need to remember? The mic stand squeak. Yeah, I know, it's a bit, needs oiling. Yeah, good. It is summarizing, basic summary, what we would call synthesis, which is bringing 2 texts together. Okay? Sorry, I'm just scrolling up because there's an interesting question about, slightly ambiguous bit about abysmal. If it's a reference to the impenetrable dialect, wouldn't one be justified to interpret the conclusion as true? The unconvincing Cockney accent doesn't equal his ability. The reference here to his abysmal Cockney accent is his ability to do it, and it is a very well-established one. Okay. Quick note, you're absolutely right to say there's no analysis required, just basic summary. A couple of things that the examiners have pointed out in their reports. Usually, the typical mark is about 3.5, so that's obviously average, 3.5 out of 8. So people do struggle on this question, usually because they write too much. Okay, guys, if anyone disrespects my mods, you'll be booted out of the lesson permanently. Don't do it. Mean mark out of 8, 3.5, okay? One of the things, the biggest issues, one of the biggest mistakes that people make is how they focus their answer. So the focus for this question is write a summary of what you understand of the differences between the conditions, okay? The differences between the conditions, not the difference between the perspectives of the speaker, okay? So really important. No worries, Achara, okay? Really important that you're not talking about how the speakers feel, you're talking about comparing the topic across the 2 texts, okay? Inference or level of depth required, you only need very brief or surface level inference. The examiners state that specifically. Okay? Simple. An unexpected error, people not using like for like. What does that mean? What does it mean? Some people are making mistakes. Kianch, is this actually live? Remember ye. Of course I remember ye. What do I mean when I say not comparing like for like? Lots of people asking irrelevant questions here. One paragraph, we can go band for band. Chimneys are big versus kids are sad. Exactly, Zara, yeah. So it would be like saying, you know, the chimneys, big, in one text and children sad in another text, okay? So you would need to say the chimneys are big in one text and the children are small in the other text, or you would need to say the chimneys are big in one text and the chimneys are small in the other one. Do you see what I mean? So it has to be linked to what you're talking about. You can't just say this pen is black, whereas this pen is in my left hand, okay? You're not comparing the same thing, okay? Notable faux pas, deep comparison. What does that mean? What are you not supposed to do? Ishmael, does it have to be conceptual? No, you're literally summarizing some differences, okay? Deep comparison, don't do deep comparison. Okay, so no word zoom. Oh, faux pas is like a mistake. Okay, so you don't do deep analysis, you don't do deep comparison, you don't go into any real depth. I will show you exactly what you need to do. But first of all, let's find the differences. Who can think of a difference between the two texts? James, why do we have to waffle so much in English? I'm saying that you don't. I'm saying that waffle is not going to get you marks. That's the whole point of my point there. Are 2 7-line paragraphs enough for 8 marks, Yusuf? It depends what you said in them, to be honest, buddy. DIY, we're going to write a model answer. Would I say paper 1 or paper 2 is harder? Usually paper 2 people find harder because it's 2 texts. Zara has said the ages of the people. Is that a difference in the conditions? One's a positive attitude, one's a negative attitude. Okay, but is that to do with the conditions? Ash, A is more factual, it includes statistics. True, but is that to do with the conditions? So guys, loads of you are making the mistake of not comparing the conditions in the two texts. Again, pray. One is set in 2010, one is set in 1863. True, but what's that got to do with the conditions? Jasmine, you will have these slides. The workbook has all of this stuff on. Hi Cleopatra, good to have you. Okay. Worse before, okay, that's closer. Sanjid, yeah, so the conditions were worse in the past. Good. Conditions in A are safer. Nice one, Cooper. So we can talk about safety. Cool. So that might be our first one. Okay, so here's my little plan here. I'm not going to write anything other than safety. And I want to make reference to, you know, the CCTV that it talks about for safety versus the dead letter in the law of the second one. Okay, so safety is one thing that I'm going to compare about the conditions. What else? One has soot and the other one maybe. Mohammed, do you have to analyze language or anything in this one? No analysis, no, you can do some very basic level inference. Ishmael, we will mention suggesting when we come to do the writing in a second, but we're going to find what the comparisons are. Okay? Nice. Okay, so someone has just talked about the training involved. So one of them requires an MVQ versus the brine approach. So the conditions you experience while working in training are going to be worse in one compared with the other. Okay, so there's a difference. Another difference. Nice one. Capisha, I will be writing a modern answer. Yes, indeed. Amna, yes, this is AQA. Can you do it from the whole of the sources? Yeah. Yeah. Unless the question specifies a specific part. You can't even read it from here. How are you supposed to know the differences? So I've got it bigger on this slide, but that's what the workbook is for, so you have it in front of you for reference, okay? Nice. Do I have the answers ready, Ishmael? No, I'm going with what people are saying. Awesome. There's some really great answers coming through. Remember, don't focus on the quotations, but what they're associated with. Okay. Sabine, source A is hard physical work. Okay. So they're both hard work, but one is just tough, while the other one is damaging, right? So different kinds of hard work. One is really unpleasant and damaging, and one is just toughening you up, right? And then four would be enough, by the way, guys. 4 would be enough. Someone is saying it's their choice. Nice one, Lila. Choice versus forced. Okay, so voluntary versus obligatory. Boom, easy peasy. Okay, so that is the 4 links that we're going to make. We're going to talk about the safety of the conditions, the training conditions, why it is hard work in different conditions, and whether the conditions are voluntary or involuntary. Gra, how long am I going to spend on question 5? Like half an hour, 45 minutes maybe? Okay. Yeah, lots of people asking about different exam boards. This is AQA specific. Will, what if you really don't understand an extract? You have to focus on the bits that you do understand. Remember that it is an untiered paper, which means that the texts are chosen to be as accessible as possible for everyone. Number 2 says training, NVQ, so the NVQ, and brine, so when they're covered in brine. Okay, so 4 paragraphs in 8 minutes. No, Jess, 4 sentences. You don't need a paragraph on each of these. So let me show you how you do this, and what I will do is I will highlight the phrasing, okay? So, the first thing that we're doing, safety, okay, is one of the differences in the conditions, okay? Differences between the conditions. The sources differ in terms of the safety of conditions. Okay, that's all I need for my summary point. Then I'm going to quote safety of conditions with source A, and I'm going to get a quotation from source A. With source A mentioning the, 4,000 worth of CCTV. Of CCTV, suggesting close monitoring of the workers, but source B, and what was I want to the dead letter, with source B mentioning the dead letter of the law suggesting workers remain unprotected by law. Okay, so all I've done here, really, really simple, is I have said what my difference is. The sources differ in terms of the safety of the conditions. Whoa. That's the ugliest highlight I've ever done. Okay, so the sources differ in terms of the safety of the conditions. That is me specifying what the difference is. Okay, that's my first line. Ishmael, can you summarize separately, like 1 paragraph for each source? No, I wouldn't recommend it, because then it's not differences. Okay, so if you summarize one text and then the other, you're not identifying differences. Okay, differences is specified in the title. Okay, Marion, by a dead letter it means that the law has been made law, but no one is enforcing it. That's a dead letter. Okay, then I just go in and I exemplify from source A, with source A mentioning, there's my quotation, and then incredibly briefly, I then go on to infer by just saying suggesting close monitoring of the workers. Nothing more than that is required for my basic level inference. Okay, so Ella, these are my sentence starters. The sources differ in terms of, with source A mentioning, suggesting. Okay, so I will circle what's the same for each one. And then you've got that word but there just linking. And then source B mentioning the dead letter of the law, which is my second quotation. And then suggesting workers remain unprotected by law. Okay, so notice that it is just one sentence. That's all I need to do. And these sentences can stay the same, whatever the question, okay? So the sources differ in terms of, okay, with source A mentioning, blah, 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 suggesting, and that's where you do your very basic inference, but source B mentioning, suggesting, okay? So everything I've just underlined in black, super, super simple. Saket, please save questions for question 5 until we're doing question 5, but yes, you can make up statistics in question 5, as long as they seem reasonable. Afia, so here is my inference. The only inference I've done here is I've inferred from £4,000 worth of CCTV that there is close monitoring of the worker. That is inference, okay? That is not explicitly stated in the text, therefore it is inference. And then here, source B mentioning the dead letter of the law, suggesting workers remain unprotected by the law, that is inference. I do not need to go deeper, okay? For those of you saying your teachers have said to go deeper, you need a higher level of inference, it's not in the mark scheme. The mark scheme specifies that you have just simply to do some basic inference, and all the indicative content, which is where they give a sample response, none of it goes deep, okay? So you don't need to. Can they ask both similarities and differences? No. Okay. Teddy, surface level. That's it. Okay. So this would realistically be about 2 marks. Okay. Which means that you could do, 2 or 3 more sentences. Okay. Ishmael, do you mean to repeat 4 times for 4 marks? Realistically, most people end up writing like 3 comparisons. I aim for 4, but that's just me being ambitious, okay? And I recommend being ambitious, but if you run out of time, remember this is 8 minutes, and only 8 marks available. Emia, you do not need techniques for this question, absolutely not. Cleo, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Can you do 2 points but more evidence? Celestia, I mean, it's not really going to be getting you more marks. It wants you to summarize the differences. It's not asking you to go into detail about those differences, but to summarize them, okay? A summary of the differences. That is telling you no depth. No depth is required. Now guys, let's do a poll. I have a quick question for you. Am I able to do a poll from my phone? I don't think I am. All right. Use of exclamations rather than a quote enough. Megan, that would probably be fine, yeah. So what I'm going to ask now, I can't do it. Right, just tell me in the chat. It's not going to let me run a poll because apparently I'm not logged in as me. I'm logged in as Alex for some reason. But let me know, guys, do you want me to do another sample sentence of comparison, or do you want me to move on to the next question? So say more if you want me to show you how to do it again, or next question if you want next question. Okay, loads of people saying yes and more. Lots more people saying sample. I've seen 1 no, 2 no's, a couple of people saying next. Okay, majority want me to do 1 more. So we're going to balance it. I'm going to do 1 more, but I'm not going to do a full answer. Okay, so I'm going to do 1 more. Thank you, besties. Okay, so compromise, because some people are saying next and some people are saying more. We'll just do 1 more link, and I'll show you that it's exactly the same phrasing. Okay, Kian, yeah, we'll make it quick. Of course, buddy. All right. So I've done this one, easy breezy. Next one is going to be about training versus brine, okay? So my link is going to be, so again, I'm going to use my same colors just to show you. Now you don't have to you don't have to do a line break. I'm just going to do it to show that these are separate. You can do it as all part of the same paragraph, okay? An NVQ, Jalab, is a type of qualification. I think it's a national vocational qualification. Brine is salt water, okay? 4 of those will get 8 marks. Sanjid, yeah, without doubt. Okay. I would recommend doing 4, but usually people get 7 or 8 from. People get 6 or 7 from just doing 3. So if it's just for 1 extra mark and you're spending ages, then don't. Ibrahim saying, "I'm not your bestie." That's really gutting. That's really gutting for me. I hope you know that's going to keep me up crying tonight, and I'm going to do really badly in my exam because of that. Okay, so the sources differ. Someone told me to hurry up, so let's get on. Okay, the sources also differ. Okay, Ishmael, is it that simple? Yeah, it is actually, yeah. It is that simple. 8 explanations for 8 marks. Asnaf, no. Absolutely not. 4 mini paragraphs. Yeah, it's 4 sentences, Chelsea, exactly. You're welcome, Dino Dooms, my guy. The inferences aren't perceptive, though. Exactly, Jaden, because they don't need to be on this question. You're going to be more perceptive on the next question when it comes to analysing language. Okay, that's when you can be perceptive. Okay, the sources also differ in regard to the conditions of training. Okay, straight up, that is my point there. Then in source A, with source A mentioning, let me find it, obviously you can zoom in further, MVQ in chimney engineering, quote NVQ, okay, it's my quote, suggesting, this is going to be my very surface level inference. What does it suggest to me? Well, it suggests that this is a nationally endorsed and therefore quite cushy experience, okay? Suggesting it is nationally endorsed and thus comfortable, whilst source B, can I fit it onto this page? While source B mentions the brine training which suggests literally rubbing salt into the wound causing suffering. Okay? Bada bing, bada boom, easy peasy. What does he mean by conditions? That's how people are experiencing it. Sorry guys, my green screen has just decided to go walkabout. There we go. Does that make sense? A bit too simple, find it hard to believe. Ishmael, I promise you, my guy, I've been examining for many, many years. This would be another 2 marks, okay? So I'll just show you the color coding again. It's exactly the same as before, okay? The color coding is, in yellow, identify the difference, okay? Show the difference with but or whilst in the middle. Give an example from each text. Source A mentioning the MVQ in chimney engineering, source B mentioning the brine training, and then a very surface level inference of what that quotation suggests. Nationally endorsed and thus comfortable, suggesting, which suggests literally rubbing salt into the wound causing suffering. Okay, this is going to be another 2 marks, okay? So we got 4 so far just by writing 2 sentences. Easy peasy. Will, NVQ, I said before, is a national vocational qualification, and brine is salt water. Devinder, you can use quotations later on in the exam that you've used on this question, quite simply because a different examiner will be marking your different questions. Okay, so typically an examiner is given 1 question to mark. Okay, so it's quite easy if the examiner is given question 1, for example, they can just zoom through tons. But what they normally do is they have that computer automated. Tabby, is it allowed to be so repetitive? Yeah, when it's only out of 8 marks, they're not expecting an essay structure. Okay, so all I've done that is different from one paragraph to the next is I've said also, okay, to show that there's a development in my argument. That's it. Ishmael, that would be 1 paragraph. Yeah, it's 2 sentences. It's 2 sentences. You can do 3 or 4 sentences to get the marks. No spag marks for this question, Adam, no. But you obviously want to be as clear as possible. Okay? How do you reach a level 4 answer? What do you mean, Jesse? Ishmael, I think I've answered that question. Please stop spamming it. Point evidence analysis, essentially, Yo-Yo, except the point is a difference that you've stated. Okay, so I call it synthesis. Okay? Dan, your English teacher wouldn't be happy. Your English teacher should be happy that you get to save time in the exam. RM Fun Car. I didn't do geography GCSE. I did history GCSE. So I can't answer that question. It's a me, JC. How do you not burn out during the test? Take your time. Take your time. Do your mastery at the beginning to make you feel confident about the answers coming up. Izzy BDA, you don't get a grade per answer, but these 2 sentences, they're 2 marks each realistically, so that would get you 4 of your 8 marks. So you just double this, okay? They give you loads of space in the exam to write more, but this is just 2 of the paragraphs. You don't have to do a line break between them because they're just sentences. Easy breezy, okay? Ari Patel, how do you recommend we analyse the extracts? Do you recommend writing summary next to each paragraph? So if you think back to earlier on in the session, if you were here, notice that we wrote a little summary next to each paragraph of a couple of words just to make it easier to refer back to later. Yeah. Okay, so that's how we do it. Mastery, Nugget Man, is literally just going through, highlighting key things for the question, and you zoom through. Jesse, what level answer is this? Okay, so if you did another one of these paragraphs, then it would be in the top band for this question. But again, it's only out of 8 marks. Okay? Has 3 or 4 of these sentences. Yeah. 1 chunky-ish paragraph, Ishmael. Yeah. James, why GCSE is actually easier than I thought they would be? I mean, there's a lot of mystery surrounding them, but when you have someone simplifying it, hopefully it's easier. Move on, David, I agree. Let's move on. Okay, should we have a look at question 3? Question 3. Elliot with 1T, if you did badly on paper 1, do you still have a chance for paper 2? Of course you do. Of course you do. They're marked separately, and it's the total that matters. Mohammed, I tend to recommend literally doing them in the order they come up. Okay, literally do them in the order they come up. Free Palestine, what does GCSE stand for? General Certificate of Secondary Education. Sir, are you 100% sure? I'm 100% sure. Tam said it's not 8 out of 8 because that's only half the answer. Okay? I didn't say it was 8 out of 8. I said it's 4 out of 8 because it's half the answer and you guys wanted me to move on to the next question. Okay? Kabish, can we go a bit quicker? Yeah. So Ishmael, this is exactly the same as paper 1 apart from one thing. What is the difference between this question on paper 2, where you're analysing language, and the one on paper 1? What's the difference between them? Matrix, if the handwriting is unclear to the marker, then they will pass it to someone else, basically. But that's very rare. In question 2, basic inference for full marks, Anna, yes. Well done, guys. Key difference between the language analysis question on paper 1 and paper 2 is there's 12 marks for this one, so you're going to write more than you did in paper 1 for this question. Okay, 12 marks, therefore you're going to do a little bit more heft required. Okay, quick thing to bear in mind. The examiner report on question 3 points out a few things. It says, okay, this text, the text that you're asked to refer to, will be from the 20th century. But the 20th century started over 100 years ago, which means that sometimes the texts can be hard, okay? Normally they are, more recent than that, but realistically, sometimes they will be harder, okay? And the 19th century started more than 200 years ago, okay? So the texts can be quite old, okay? Unhelpful approach would be feature spotting. You guys know that already. Nobody's doing feature spotting. Whale Abu Karub has said, how many paragraphs do you need for this question? 3 meaty ones is usually good enough. I've seen good responses that have done as few as 2 and as many as 5 paragraphs. So there's not a specific number of paragraphs you should be doing. A nice middle ground is 3 meaty detailed ones. Okay? Seal Kazosi, how many GCSE subjects is your child required to sit? There's no requirement for them to sit any, but they must be in full-time education or training until 18. And if they don't have a GCSE English language or maths, then by 16 they would need to retake it or be in some education until 18. Otherwise they can stop. Basically, that's an answer to your question. But anyway, let's go. Chop, chop, please, Ari. Totally fair. So no feature spotting. Don't be doing that. Unhelpful approaches, commenting on sentences, okay? So don't comment on sentences, i.e. this is a long sentence, this is a short sentence, very rare. Feature spotting is you say, this is a simile, this is a metaphor. No worries, where? Unhelpful approach, reader response or effect going, this makes me as a reader feel sad and a bit hungry and like I want to finish my exam. Okay, so these three are unhelpful approaches. Don't feature spot, don't comment on sentence structures, and don't talk about the effect on the reader. Sadly, you're not feature spotting. What you need to do is analyze a feature. Okay, so you can mention a feature, so you can say this simile creates this effect, but you can't just say this is a simile. Give me a mark for that, high five. Okay. Islamic knowledge, for example, this is AQA. You can talk about language features, but feature spotting is where you just label what's in the text rather than analysing it, okay? So we've got to focus on the analysis. Right. Okay, and then a helpful approach would be to consider why this choice, not that. So think, why this word choice helps you to understand the effect. Jaheem, why can't you talk about the effect on the reader? It's not that you can't talk about it, it's just that people do an extra whole sentence in their analysis. They will go, this creates this effect. This makes the reader feel, blah, blah, blah. That extra sentence doesn't get you any further, okay? For those of you saying, how can you talk about effect without saying effect on reader? I'm saying don't do a separate sentence on the effect of the reader, okay? JC, we will take a break after question 3. Okay. Edits, how many language features should you put in each paragraph? I'll show you how I would do this, okay? So we're going to go through and annotate. Now remember, obviously earlier, we did some annotating here, okay? So we can use what we've highlighted here to good effect. The only thing that I would try and do here is make connections between the analyses that I'm making. So let me just show you what I mean by this, okay? Ishmael, you're not analysing structure for this one. You're analysing language, okay? So don't talk about beginning, middle, and end, no, because you're analysing structure. Swaggy, no. Sentence structures are structural features, okay? Okay, so let me just show you. Am I using my webcam microphone? No, I don't think so. Yo. Or maybe I am. That's an interesting thought. I am. Guys, is the sound quality better now? Thank you for pointing out. I was indeed using my my webcam microphone. Is this better? Should be nicer. Thank you for pointing out. Can you say that the writer uses simile, then embed a quote? For sure you can, Selena. Okay, let me just very quickly show you how I would go through with annotating. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to look at here is the fact that it refers to these people as poor children. It's not as loud. It's too quiet. Okay, I'll put it close to my face then. How's that? All right. We will write the full answer higher. Well, we'll at least do a few paragraphs for it. Okay. Little sufferers, poor children. Okay. Those are linked. I'm going to get a fresh highlighter color. I'm going to think about the effect on them. Okay. So bruised and bleeding. Bodies deformed. Backs often covered with sores. Sooty cancer. Okay. There we go. Then we've also got, what else have we got? Another thing that I noticed is the superlatives here with the strongest brine, and most fetid atmosphere. So there's a link there. There's another point that I would potentially highlight about the... Guys, we have an issue with the... let me see if I can change the setting. Guys, is that better? Is that better sound quality? Can you hear me better now? Let me know. Is that better? How about now? Is that okay? Let me know, guys. Is that better? The better. Okay, cool. Thank you. I think there's a slight lag as well, so the time it takes me. Okay. Okay. So the other thing that I would potentially notice here is the kind of the time that's required here. So we've got 4 years, and we've got them had to be
What else? They returned, were again rubbed. And then the final thing that I would probably note, just going through when I'm looking with interest, is going, they were rubbed, so there's no choice there. They were compelled by the master, coaxing or blows, so they were kind of manipulated into it, and submitting. Again, we've got, what else? Were again rubbed. Okay, so that passive voice there. Okay, so all I've done here is I've just annotated, and why have I color coded here, and why is it beneficial to have done that particular color code? What do we think? Issa Ali, so you need to be quick, you're being too slow. I'm unfortunately going to do a negative review on Trustpilot. Issa, that's a little bit unfair, buddy. I'm going to fit this into the 3 hours as required, as promised for you. And different people are asking to go at different paces. And also it's free. And you can watch this later. If I'm going too slow for you, watch it later, skip through the lesson, speed up the playback. It's entirely up to you, buddy, but I'm trying to appeal to like 900 people. Okay, thank you, Issa. Okay, what have I color-coded? Each of them is showing different things, okay? So the things that I've noticed is that we've got these little epithets, okay? Epithets, which is just little referring points, okay? To refer to people. I might do a different color, actually. Epithets. Epithets literally are phrases used to refer to people, okay? Can't do that in the exam. Ishmael, what can't you do in the exam? You keep spamming the same point. What can't you do in the exam? Okay, were rubbed. Okay, so there's no choice. They have no choice in it. So there's sympathy from the epithets. They have no choice, as suggested by they were rubbed, they were compelled, they were coaxed or hit to submit. They were rubbed repeatedly. Okay. Strongest. So we've got these superlatives, okay, suggesting that it's intense, yeah. We've got the time that it takes to do it, so again rubbed, and 4 years, and then we've got here in the yellow, we've got the consequences, and it's emotively worded. Okay, so that's just the way that I would do it by going through, kind of zooming through. Running Halo, stop deleted comments. I'm not deleting anything, buddy. Chelsea, what's the superlative? Great question. Superlative is where you have EST or most at the start of something. Okay? All right, my friends, let's move on. Guys, let's stop putting the L's in the chat. I think Issa is happy to move on. Okay, so the way that I would then write this up is really, really simple, where we just do point, evidence, analysis. My evidence/analysis are probably going to mention some terminology, but I don't like to overcomplicate my paragraph structures. Really simple. Some people mentioned earlier the SQI, which is statement, quote, inference, same thing. Some people mentioned earlier doing SQUID, which included so the development where you enhance it further, and the U was... I can't even remember. Anyway, there's lots of ways of kind of structuring your paragraphs, and there's no kind of requirement to do it a specific way. Okay, so I'll show you how I'd write this. Okay, so if I'm talking about the epithets of sympathy, this would be really easy, and I can probably combine that with the consequences. Okay, so my first point is going to be about the epithets for sympathy and the emotive consequences. Okay, so how does the writer use language to describe the hardships endured by the chimney sweepers? The writer. Okay, so I'm going to go straight in there. Guys, please remember from the beginning. Please remember from the beginning that we are remembering our humanity. We're being nice and kind to each other. Okay. Oh, Jaden, the QU stands for quote. Totally fair. Okay. Okay, epithets here are just phrases used to refer to people. Okay, so the writer creates a sympathetic tone around around the children's hardships. Okay, so that's kind of my point. Okay, the writer creates a sympathetic tone around the children's hardships by. Okay, chicken. I can't lie. If I pass, I will kiss Louis. You'd have to find me first, buddy. Selena, you're not going to give 12 points. You're not going to give 12 points. Okay. Believe, you're going to drop in your terminology as you go through. I will show you how to do that as we go. Okay. Selena, no need for 12 points. Okay. The writer creates a sympathetic tone around the children's hardships by referring to them with emotive epithets like, and I'm going to quote, little sufferers and poor children. Notice how I'm embedding my quotations. Sufferers. So many syllables. Poor children, little sufferers. And intense description of the effects. I'm going to quote again. Bruised. Look how short my quotations are. Deformed. Notice how I'm not using the whole one. I'm just doing a nice list to show my range here. Sores and cancer. And then the effect. Okay. So, by the way, guys, lots of you asking about the word epithet. Epithet is any phrase used to refer to a specific person or group of people. Okay. Loads of people asked about epithet. Toby, how are we answering? Okay, so my point here, I'll color code it in a second for you. Okay, once I've done my first argument. Okay. The tactical journey. There'd be no way of getting 12 things in there, and I would say you dilute your analysis. So no, you wouldn't guarantee 12 marks. No. That's just a dash. That's just a parenthetical dash. You could put it in brackets if you want. Okay. Is the rich like one type of epithet? 2 days later, yeah. Okay. No need to mention the reader. Running Halo. Someone says you need to give 12 explanations. What's your view on this nonsense? Wrong. Objectively wrong. So no. Guys, stop promoting other chats. Other streams. If they need your help with advertising, then they will ask for it. Okay. They are very capable of getting all the traffic they need without you harvesting from my besties. All right. Okay, so bruised, deformed, sores and cancer, combining to present the conditions as heinous. Okay, so this is just one point. Okay, so all I'm doing here is I've made a point, which is the writer creates a sympathetic tone around the children's hardships. I'm then exemplifying it, and notice how many quotations I've done in this one. Emotive epithets like poor children and little sufferers, an intense description of the effects, bruised, deformed, sores and cancer. And then I'm commenting on the effect, combining to present the conditions as heinous. Notice though that as I go, I'm also dropping little bits of analysis. Not little bits of analysis, little bits of terminology. So we've got emotive epithets, intense description. That's enough terminology for this point, and then we just move on to the next one. This microphone is supposed to be a better quality, is it not? Sorry if it's not, guys. There we go. I've turned the microphone up. AM, do I like fried or roasted chicken? As I said earlier, I'm vegetarian, so no, neither. Ishmael has said about 100 times now, is it legit analysis and quotes promulgating and suggesting? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. You're typing the same thing. It doesn't really make sense. Okay. No worries, Shannon. So if I get like 7 out of 12 on this, would that be an okay mark to get? Yeah, for sure. Can you say it's a semantic field of suffering? Rokan, you definitely can, yeah. Definitely can. So IDK man, the analysis is as you're going through, okay? How many marks for that paragraph? Teddy MTV, no way you bench 180 veggie. I don't know what to say, buddy. I built this meat out of vegetables. New subscriber, thanks, All World Vlogger. Is it just analysis, Ishmael? Yeah, essentially. Okay, so then I move on. Guys, do you want me to do another point? Or do you want me to move on to question 4? It's up to you. SW, you wouldn't necessarily need to synthesize if it's on one text. Luke, yeah, I'll do a Q&A at the end for sure. If you did one paragraph at the same point with 2 sets of ETA, did that twice, would you get 12 out of 12? I wouldn't do the same point. I would aim to avoid the same point. Okay, another point, guys. Let's go straight on. Okay, let's go. So I'm now going to talk about the lack of choice that they have, because I think that could be one whole point in itself. Okay. Another use of language to show the hardships is when the writer. So again, all I'm doing is I'm just ticking the boxes. Look at the phrasing here. Use of language, writer, hardships, all from the question. Okay, so writer, language, hardships. You don't need to reword the whole question every time you make a point. Teddy MTB, you don't need to mention the reader specifically, no. Okay. Don't need more analysis, Oliver. So there's 2 different kinds of ways of doing paragraphs, right? So you can have your Deborah, your teacher said never to mention language. I mean, the question's about language, so you're just signposting to the examiner. There's no harm in not mentioning language as long as you then do analysis of language. That's fine. Issa, I'm sure he doesn't need you promoting his stream elsewhere. Stop trying to harvest the students who decided to be here. They know what to do. Okay. Do you need a conclusive sentence at the end of each paragraph? Thomas, no. Okay. So another use of language to show the hardships is when the writer uses passive voice to show their helplessness. Okay, so that's my sentence. Then I'm going to go straight in. Have to go on to the next slide. Hasham, why am I vegetarian? I've been one for like 32 years, so just used to it. Okay, so that's my point. How many paragraphs are required? Devinder, 3 meaty ones is probably going to be enough. Okay, then I'm going to straight in, and what are my quotes? Were rubbed, were again rubbed. Okay, so the passive were rubbed and were again rubbed reveals their lack of agency whilst the language confirms this dynamic. And I'm going to quote from, what have we got here? Coaxing, compelling, and submit. Okay. Lots of you are saying, what's the passive voice? The passive voice is where you have essentially the one who is having something done to them. Okay, so they're on the passive end. They were rubbed, meaning that they didn't choose to rub anything or to be rubbed. They were rubbed. Agency, Jana, is your choice of doing something. Okay, so the passive voice, passive sentence. Could you say repetition? Definitely, Angie. Yeah, it's more of a structural feature, but as long as you're focusing on the language that has been repeated, then you're all good. Okay, confirms this dynamic. We're going to go with compelling. And coaxing to submit. With these verbs or these verb choices clearly delineating the chimney sweep's inability to control their fate. Okay. Toma, do I need to Mac this? What do you mean Mac? M-A-C. Matthew, heinous means awful. Cat's passive voice is a language feature, yes. Okay. What exactly are the extra 4 marks here for? Do you mean compared with paper 1, Jesse? It's because there's more quantity. So it's not because of deeper analysis, it's just more quantity. Okay. Ari, what separates excellent responses from good ones? Usually the combination of multiple quotations and also the kind of the originality of the analysis. If you say, it sounds really horrible for them compared with this particular aspect seemed to make their conditions particularly hard, that's kind of one of the differences. Are tenses language? Yes, Megan. Yeah. Millie, I would say 3 meaty ones. Okay, so I've done 2. We're going to move on. This question is just about language matrix, yes. Ishmael, good question. Do you need that many quotes or is it better to go deeper? So there's 2 ways. You can have one longer quote that you go into more detail about, or you can have multiple short quotes which back up your point. Okay, I would recommend having a little balance. Faizi, same exact as paper 1 question 2, you just write more. Exactly that. Exactly that. Farah, I'd say 3 meter paragraphs. Yeah, so just what I've done 3 times would be enough. Okay. Ishmael, I've just answered that question. Moji Shorts, I think I just answered that question as well about what separates good and great questions. Nahom, 1 more of these, 12 out of 12, yeah. Yeah, we're going to move on to question 4, Free Palestine for sure, yeah. I'm just going to quickly colour code based on what people were saying before. So the point that I'm making is here. No, it's actually on the previous slide, isn't it? Another use of language to show the hardships is when the writer uses passive voice to show their helplessness. That's my next point. Then I'm going to go straight in with my evidence, blah, 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 blah. And hopefully you'll notice that my analysis has been as I go through. Okay, so I'm analysing as I go. Okay, reveals their lack of agency, analysis, with these verb choices clearly delineating the chimney sweep's inability to control their fate, analysis. In terms of terminology that people are asking for, which I'm highlighting in blue, we've got the passive voice there, just reference to language there, and then verb choices there. Okay, so I'm just dropping in my terminology as I go. Mike has gone again. Isabel, is that better? Chelsea, if passive voice is the victim's perspective, what is... so it's not necessarily the victim's perspective, it's where the person doing... the person having something done to them is put at the front of the sentence, okay? So if somebody kicked me, that would be the active voice, okay? But if the passive voice would then be, I was kicked by somebody. So it puts me, the recipient of the verb, at the start of the sentence, okay? Don't worry too much about the use of the passive voice. If you don't know passive voice, then don't feel like you necessarily need to use it, okay? SW, yes, always aiming for the top band. Lack of agency, Arav, is your inability to control your fate. Tabby, this is so useful. Thank you so much. My pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. Is what I wrote a meaty paragraph, or should you do that more times per paragraph? Floof, what I've written is 2 meaty paragraphs here. So here's one meaty paragraph, which has done things nicely. And here is another one. Okay. So if we're doing this metaphorically, this might get us 8 out of 12. We need 1 more, okay? 1 more good one. Okay. Why was the first paragraph shorter than the second paragraph? It was 6 lines. This was 2.5 and 4. It's half a line longer. It's basically the same length. Mariam, no, those quotes are the passive voice, okay? So their wounds were rubbed by Brian. Okay, rather than someone robbed their wounds were rubbed. Okay, so it's passive voice. Passive voice associated with being passive. Mariam, hopefully that explains it. Okay, right, let's take another, should we say 5-minute break? And then we'll go on to question 4. Okay. Back at 19, what should we say? 19. Hey, like 1818. That's pretty cool. All right, guys, I will see you very soon. Oh, Mintu, are these not too short? I thought we needed 2 points per paragraph. You don't need 2 points per paragraph, no. No. All right, guys, 5-minute break. I will see you very soon. Thank you. Yo! What's up, you guys? I'm back. Alright, guys, as promised by my guy, the Terminator, I'm back. So, hopefully we had a satisfying break. We took a cheeky 5 minutes to ourselves. Senior B fell asleep. This is a great use of your time. Thank you, my guy. I appreciate that. I will miss you very much. Alam Dalila has said, how do I get perceptive analysis into these paragraphs? Like, there's no specified area for analysis. So do I just write 3 perceptively where you did your analysis? Yeah, so, I mean, you can always add a sentence to the end of your point, just kind of getting a little bit more, depth in there, where you kind of think about the consequences. Or the implications, rather, of the point that you've made. That could be a little bit more deep. Moji Shorts, is there a cap to how much an individual can be marked per paragraph? No, so it's never done per paragraph. It's done per response. Yeah. Ishal, that's not how you pronounce it, Louis. Pronounce what? Did I get someone's name wrong? My apologies. Zubisk, how can I learn to spot language features quickly? I wouldn't, to be honest. I would focus on language choices, so specific words that have been used, and your associations with those words. Okay? Nahom, yeah, this is my last lesson with you guys. The exam is tomorrow. Exactly that. All right, guys, I just want to show you something really quickly, which is super cool. And it's basically a very special something called My Resources. Okay, and My Resources are basically, as you can see, an entire web page set up for revising your exam. So obviously, literature is done. Language, we've done paper 1. So section paper 2, just going to show you, we have resources available for every question. So after this stream tonight, or if you go to another stream, or if you have to drop off, you can always go back, and there's a full review of how to do each of the questions, including a YouTube video that talks you through it. So there's question 1. There's question 2 as well. So I'm just going to have a look at question 2 now, where it talks about your kind of synthesis of bringing them together. A bit like Save My Exams, I guess, yeah. So it's study notes on each of the questions. It talks you through, here's the approach, telling you how to do the question, then practice questions, full response to one of these things, a model answer, a YouTube video on how to approach it and how to do it. We've got the same for question 3, like I just did for question 3, where we're analysing language, telling you how to do it, the approach you should take, a model answer, a talk through with Alex of how to do this question. Same thing for question 4, which we're going to have a look at in a second. Question 4, taking you through all of the stuff for question 4 with a model answer and a full YouTube video of how to do it and what a response looks like, and also for section B. Issa, we were working on these in the lead up to the exams. Obviously, we released these just ahead of paper 1. So if you were on that stream, that Cram, you would have seen them for English language paper 1 as well. For paper 2, obviously, you've got these tonight. The link, you guys, is in the description. You just click on it. It's literally my headspace and then My Resources, and I'll talk you through it there. Okay, so full model responses, detailing how to do them correctly. The link is in the description. It's just basically if you're looking for something to do tonight, after you've watched this stream, after you've watched any of the other live streams, the link is in the description. Vani has also just shared it. Okay, so it's myheadspace.co.uk/my resources. We've got them for the other subjects as well. But anyway, guys, if you want to have a look at those ahead of the exam tomorrow, it's just a nice little revision thing. There's a few videos. Chicken, yeah, would have been nice a few days before the exam. So we did release them on the previous Cram. Could we pin it? I will try and pin it. Am I allowed to pin? I'm not allowed to pin because I'm not logged in as me. Crazy. I'll see if I can log into my stream and do it. Anyway, just so you know, guys, we have Cram courses for other subjects as well. It's not an advert because these are all free as well. So you've got, obviously, there's me and Alex with these ones. You've got Brooke in physics, you've got LaJoy, you've got Laura, you've got Nick, you've got Neil, and you've got Dario with the maths as well. So any of the other subjects you've got left, you will have obviously Cram courses for those as well. Free on YouTube the night before the exam. Highly recommend. And the final quick one, scan the QR code on the screen, some free last minute revision resources. You'll be able to get those sent through to you at the end of the lesson as well. Moji Shorts, yeah, I'll go into all the detail that I can, of course. You thought Laura quit, Amelia? No, Laura is still here. I saw her only today. Have I ever done English with my life on the line? Prince Sashira. I don't know what that means. Cool. Hopefully that will make sense. Scan that QR code. If you scan the QR code, you will be sent the revision resources at the end of the lesson. You'll also be sent a link to Trustpilot where you can write a review if you fancy it. Okay. Uta Ponta, what's up, buddy? Begging you, sir, please help me out. I'll do what I can. Alhamdulillah. If you send me a paper, can I mark it? No. Umar, Eid Mubarak to you and to all my friends. Okay. Bambi, what does language mean in question 3? It's anything that the writer has put on the page. That is language. Okay. Issa, why are there 2 exams on Eid? I don't know. The obviously because Eid moves around each year, but the exams are set. Maybe that's kind of what they never can anticipate it. I don't know. I don't set when the exams are, but they're all set like years in advance. So, Umar, can we carry on? Yes, we can. Okay, so question 4. Lots of people are asking me to move on. I'm more than happy to. I do not want to hold you guys back. Christinian, why does my Headspace have a WhatsApp number so that you can contact customer services? Okay. All right. Are we going to go how to write each type in question 5? No, we can do that in the Q&A session, but we're going to focus on the set question that comes up. Okay. All right. The examiners didn't know it would be on Eid. Yeah, exactly. Alina, exactly. Where's my pen? There's my pen. Okay, so question 4 looks like this. Question 4 says you need to refer to the whole of source A and the whole of source B for this question. Okay, simple. Compare how the writers convey their different perspectives on the job of chimney sweeping. Okay, so the clue is in the question. The clue is in the question, okay? So compare means that you do need to tackle both texts at once. What does the how the writers convey bit mean? What does that mean? Okay, so both texts. What does the how the writers convey bit mean? Mention thoughts and feelings. Methods, yeah, what do we call it when we are looking at how the writer conveys something? What do we think? Is language like question 2 on paper 1? Bambi, yeah. Question 3 on paper 2 is the same exact thing as question 2 on paper 1. It's just longer. Analysis, thank you. Someone just said analysis. A couple of people said analysis, actually. Okay, so analysis. So analysing both, and it's the different perspectives that you are focusing on. Okay, so focus on their POV, how they feel about it. Okay, so what connections, my friends, might you think about in terms of the perspectives that these 2 writers have on the job of chimney sweeping? Any thoughts initially? What do we think? Hopefully that's clear enough. Is that big enough? You guys have hopefully got your what do you call them? Your specials, your workbooks printed out so you can see the detail. How long is the paper in total? IDK man, it is an hour and 45, so 105 minutes. Negative perspective, okay. So, so these are basically the things that we're going to compare. So if we aim for 3 or 4 things that we want to compare between the 2 texts. Nini, draw a dog. There you go. There's a dog. Just for you. Easy peasy, right. What things can we compare? Opinions differ. Tell me more specifically, Shanze, how their opinions differ. One is good and one is negative, Christinium. Yeah, for sure. Okay. But I would say that that's kind of the overall argument. You would kind of need to go into a little bit more detail about what's positive and negative about them. Okay. So you might, for example, in source A, think about the pride that the chimney sweepers have compared with Daniel. Do I celebrate Eid? Yeah. Pride versus obligation, right? So in the first text, they are proud of what they get to do, okay? Whereas in source B, they are obligated, they are forced to do it, okay? So the pride in their thing versus the obligation and resultant outrage. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so pride versus obligation might be one of the things that we talk about. Okay, so this is literally just me sketching out my ideas. I would probably put this on the text themselves rather than on the answer lines, but it's a very, very brief overview. What else? Someone said one of the differences is scale. Thank you, Fahad. Appreciate that, buddy. So the scale, so how many are involved in it, okay? So few versus many. So the scale of the job, yeah? Do you compare their perspectives or their techniques? It's a point. Great question. Kind of both. Is this like question 2 but expanded? Is EBDA? It's exactly that, yeah. So it's question 2 where you're identifying the similarities or differences, but you're expanding because you're going into detail in your analysis of the language that is used. Okay? Can you use ideas from question 2? You can do, Condoleezza, if the question is asking about the same thing. So sometimes question 2 will ask about the differences between, the chimneys, and question 4 will ask about the differences between the sweepers, in which case there wouldn't be much crossover. But if there is crossover, you absolutely can. Pray, when I say scale, I'm talking about how many people are involved in the process. Okay? So we can talk about, so someone else has just said that, like, the role of kind of adults versus children involved here, okay, and the associations with that. Okay, and then I guess, you could compare the qualifications, but there are kind of no qualifications, David, for the ones in source B. Or are you talking about different actual qualifications? Sorry. Is there any value in using structure, analysing structure, Megan? Not really, no, because you can mention structure if there's something obvious, but no. Diego, wish we worked slightly quicker so we could spend longer on question 5, please. Yeah, I'll do my best, buddy. I'll do my best. Okay. How would scale be a perspective? So it's their perspective on the scale. Okay, so their perspectives are basically that the scale of chimney sweeping is very low but kind of rising, and the perspective on the other one is that it is far too many. Okay, so that's their perspective. Sam, hopefully that clarifies it. Okay, cool. And then a fourth point. Any others, guys? The law. Yeah. Okay. So you could talk about the the Clean Air Act versus that kind of dead letter. So how they feel about those things. Yeah. Strict rules versus no rules. Exactly, Lee. Yeah. So the that kind of the role of the law in there. No worries, Sam. You got it, my guy. Is it just differences or similarities also? If you look at the wording of the question, it talks about their different perspectives. So sometimes it will just say their perspectives, in which case you could do similarities if you wanted to. But yeah. How many paragraphs are needed? There isn't a specific number of paragraphs, but I would say 3 or 4 is usually a good place to go. Someone's just asked, what do writers' perspectives actually mean? It's basically anything where they're talking about their thoughts or feelings about what they're talking about. So it's not their literal perspectives, as in the position that they are in. It is their perspectives, as in how they think and feel about what's been done. Okay? Bambi, is it worth planning answers before writing them? So this is what I'm doing here is just kind of annotations to lead it. Amelia, let's jump in. Someone's just asked about the examiner's report. Okay, so a classic error, people are not using like for like. So they will say, just like before, in the one text, he feels happy about the chimney sweepers, whereas in the other text, there is a dog. Okay, so it's not comparing the same thing across text. The unfair examiner biases, a couple of years ago, they were punishing students punitively, taking marks away from students who weren't writing in an academic style. They weren't writing with clever vocabulary, which I think is a bit unfair, but you should be aware that you should always write as academically as possible. And then finally, a balance to strike methods versus perspectives. Okay, so this is the what they think, feel. Okay, that's the perspectives. And the methods is how it's shown. Okay, so you kind of need to be addressing both. You can't just say the differences between how they think and feel, and you can't just analyze what they're doing with their language. You have to have a combination of the two, and I'll show you what to do. Okay, so let's jump in. Okay. Can you have ambiguous vocabulary overnight? What do you mean, Farah? What do you mean ambiguous vocabulary overnight? Very confused. Principal Khan, yeah, we'll do model answers for all the questions. Okay. Bambi, the like for like thing is basically you have to compare the same thing. So you can solve that problem by literally just saying your first sentence of your paragraph is identifying the difference between them. Okay. Cleo, do you talk about the effect on the reader? You don't have to. No, you can talk about the effect. You don't have to mention the reader. It's just the impact of what's been done. Do you use structure and language for question 4? Izzy, you can use either or both. It's up to you. Okay, so let me just show you, and hopefully some of these questions will be answered. Okay, so pride versus obligation and the outrage. Okay, so I use the structure of Leadhead. Okay, for my comparative analyses. I'll show you what that means. You're eating at 8, Mintu. Okay. You can always come back to the stream after. Okay. So Leadhead is just the structure that I use. I'll show you what that means as we go through. Okay. So, so what was my first point? Pride versus obligation. And the question is how they convey the different. Okay. So one contrast in the writer's perspectives on chimney sweeping is how what are you doing? Come back here. Is how pride. How pride. Good maths, guys. How proud versus outraged they are about its existence. Okay, so this L here is just a link. Okay, it is where I'm giving an overview of a difference. Okay, so L for link. Okay, I'm linking the two texts together. Okay, and the way that I'm doing proud is from source A and outraged is from source B. Okay, then I'm going to go into evidencing from text 1, from source A rather. Okay, so link. Now my E is for, sorry, I'll annotate that differently. I'm going to go E, which is evidence from source A. Okay. New gens don't know Leadhead. I'm going to show you what Leadhead looks like. Will you get marked for spag? To assume you technically know. Okay. SW, what's this? Izzy, there's no reason not to ask. It's a free live. No reason not to. Sorry, buddy. I'm not sure what your question is, but I'm happy to answer it if you ask. Is it about what Leadhead is? I'm gonna show you that once I've done a kind of sample paragraph here. What does it say after how? How proud? Proud. That word there is proud. Okay. Proud versus outrage. They are about its existence. In source A. In source A. The writer. And I'm going to quote from Glynn. So he's talking about enunciates with audible pride. We've got the never need to go to the gym. When you're up on the roof, nothing like it. Fascinating. Okay, so all of this stuff to do with his pride there. Millie, you missed an apostrophe on it's. No, I didn't. There's no need for an apostrophe in that kind of it's. It's you have added an unnecessary apostrophe, my friend. It's is possessive. It doesn't need an apostrophe. All right, buddy. In source A, the writer. Thank you to those of you who are doing the Lord's work by sharing what leadhead means. I will explain it afterwards, but I appreciate it anyway. All right. So in source A, the writer reflects on, what is it? Martin Glynn's pride. Actually, we can have audible pride is my quote there. Millie, only on question 5 would you be marked down for misuse of apostrophes there. SW, that's a beautiful way of looking at it. Yeah, isn't it literally question 2, then back up with question 3, aka language? That's exactly what it is. You're just embedding your language analysis, which is here in green, into your question 2 thing. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful point. Okay. Martin Glidd's audible pride about his job, which is fascinating. Hence being, what is it? He said third generation. Okay. So there is my evidence. Okay. So my evidence from the first source. So E for evidence. And I'm going to do exactly the same when it gets to, obviously, source B. The green is just my evidence from source A. Preppy Shrek started 2 hours ago. Yeah, 5:30. Okay. Then my next sentence is going to be basically where I'm going to analyze and dissect the language that I've chosen. Okay. So the emotive, fascinating third generation. Okay. Yeah. The emotive choice of adjectives here communicates the thrill of the role, whilst the abstract noun pride taps into the human condition. Okay, so this is my A and D where I'm analyzing and dissecting. Okay, so I'm picking apart the language choices. This is where I would be dropping in my terminology. Okay, so adjectives, abstract noun, quite simple language choices, but I'm talking about the effect of it. Okay, sorry if I've missed any points. What have we got? Can you explain as you write where and why an examiner would award marks? Moji Shorts, yeah, I'll show you once. I've done a full kind of leadhead paragraph. You should be able to understand. Bambi, difference between analyze and dissect. So analyze is where you just explain the effect, and dissect is where you pick apart the language choice that's been used. Okay. Discretion, Jalab, depends on the context. Human condition, Shanse, is like how people feel. The quotation that I've used is audible pride, fascinating, and third generation. And then pride here. Okay. Then I do my linking phrase. And my linking phrase is literally just 1 or 2 words. Okay, so linking phrase, 1 or 2 words. Do not overthink this one too much. Something like, in contrast, that's my H. That's my H for hookup, okay? Okay. Hookup, where I'm just connecting the 2 texts together. Okay, then I'm going to go and do the exact same thing, EAD, but for the second text. Okay, in contrast, in source B, the writer, what is it? What did I want to talk about? Obligation and outrage. Okay, yeah. So in this opportunity, you guys, you could, if you wanted to, use some of your analysis from question 3. You are able to do that as long as it's relevant to the point that you're making. Okay, you can repeat ideas across questions because you can have different examiner marking them. DIY, can't read my handwriting. Okay, so if you just try and listen to what I'm saying as I say it, hopefully that will make it a bit clearer. I'm trying to write as clearly as possible though, my apologies. Hookup is just linking the two texts together exactly with a linking phrase, okay? Someone asking, is dissect like zooming in? Yes, Bambi, exactly. Yeah, fabulous point. Thank you. Okay, the writer refers to, let's have a look. We've got barbarous practice. Then we've got sufferers. And what else? Most fetid atmosphere. Okay, so that would be a good place to look there. Okay. Can you talk about the writing form? Luke, you totally can, but it's probably not going to be very beneficial to you in this question. James, other linking phrases might be conversely, on the other hand, contrastingly. Any of those would be absolutely fine for differences. Okay. All right. In source B, the writer refers to the barbarous practice imposed upon the little sufferers I keep struggling with that word. Sufferers. My bad. How many paragraphs do we need to write via? I would say, probably 3 of these because they're quite meaty. In contrast, in source B, the writer refers to the barbarous practices imposed upon the little sufferers. And I probably want to make sure we've got something plied. There we go. Who are plied with beer. Okay, so there's my quotations there. And now I'm going to go straight into my analysis. Okay, so my analysis is in blue, light blue. Combining to present the horror of the situation befalling the children who have no control. Okay, that's my analysis. And then I'm going to have my dissection here as well, where I'm going to zoom in on some specific language. Anna, human condition, I'm talking about like human experience, like how people feel about things in the world. Okay, like the universal experience. Pray, yeah, this would be 1 paragraph. Okay, who have no control. With the emotive language of barbarous and the coercive associations of I'm going to go with the word verb here. Plied. Who have no control with the emotive language of barbarous and the coercive associations of the verb plied, demonstrating the negative outlook the writer has on the practice in his time. Boom. Okay. What does coercive mean? Moji, if you are coerced into something, you have no choice. Nahom, why are there no high-level language techniques? Because you don't get mark for high-level language techniques. So let's say you wanted to put in, if you wanted to point out that there is syntactical parallelism in the choice of little sufferers and barbarous practice with the pre-modifying adjective and noun phrase, that's going to get you nowhere because you're not commenting on the effect of language. Okay, so the effect of language is what's going to be gaining you the majority of your marks. The high-level language features, you don't really need to be going beyond your identifying of word classes, potentially emotive language. Do you see what I mean? It can be quite simple because you're focusing on the impact. Okay, so please do not feel like you have to go. Please do not feel like you have to go into your super high level, pre-modifying adjectival phrases and prepositional foregrounding. It's unnecessarily complex when you can just be focusing on the effect of language, which is what this this question is asking you. Okay, so this would be one paragraph following the lead head structure. I can show you where the EAD is in the second half. So we've got our E again for evidence, analysis, and the dissection coming after this. Okay, does that make sense? Do you get more marks for considering alternative interpretations in the dissection? Moji, that's one way to do dissection for sure. Bambi, over the AOs. I mean, you don't really need to be thinking about the assessment objectives for these questions. You just need to be thinking about the skills. Okay, so the skill here is comparative analysis. Okay, so it's AO1, AO2, AO3. Okay. Should non-AQA students be on this lesson, sir? Star Monkey, it's a fair question. I mean, the assessment objectives are the same, but the questions are different. So as long as you can have a look at as long as you're aware of the differences in question type, then for sure. Can I read through it, sir? Nahom, yeah, very quickly. One contrast is the writer's perspectives on chimney sweeping is how proud versus outraged they are about its existence. In source A, the writer reflects on Marvin Glynn's audible pride about his job, which is fascinating, hence being third generation. The emotive choice of adjectives here communicates the thrill of the role, whilst the abstract noun pride taps into the human condition. In contrast, in source B, the writer refers to the barbarous practice imposed on the little sufferers who are plied with beer, combining to present the horror of the situation befalling the children who have no control, with the emotive language of barbarous and the coercive associations of the verb plied, demonstrating the negative outlook the writer has on the practice in his time. Okay, plied, Anna, basically means kind of like you're given something. It's how to say it, like you're manipulated with a reward, basically, if you're plied. Okay, yeah, leadhead is super cool. I agree, Sadie. It's just a really easy structure. Bambi, are the things being asked per questions on the notes of the website? Yes, Bambi, they are. Yeah. So for those of you asking for kind of more details on any specific question or anything that you missed tonight, go and have a look at the study notes in the link in the description. Okay. Can anything be emotive language, Jesse? Yeah, but it's usually the stuff that is trying to evoke a certain emotion or make the reader feel something. Okay, so it's usually the more intense language you'd call emotive. Mariam, what about a similar point, but contrasting their methods for how each writer presents it? That's fine, Mariam, for sure. But it does talk about different perspectives, so I would try not to go too far into that one. Nini, so question 2 is simply infer, not analyze. Spot on, yeah, Nini, for question 2 earlier on in the paper. Hyper, leadhead is link. Evidence from source A, analysis of source A, dissection of that evidence in source A. The H is for hookup, connecting the two texts together, just there. Then you do the same thing for text B, evidence from source B, analysis of that evidence, and dissection of that evidence. Bada bing, bada boom, you've done a paragraph, okay? So I'd aim for maybe 3 of these, probably be enough, considering that it is worth 16 marks. Okay? Hopefully that's answered most of those questions. I am going to stay at the end, guys, for a Q&A. So any of the questions you don't feel have been answered now, I will do my very best to answer them later on. Okay? Different colours are for the different aspects of leadhead. Okay? How many times do you need to? So I've said this about 100 times now. 3 paragraphs like this. Thank you for asking though. Coercive means manipulative. Okay. Question 5 then. Question 5, section B. Let's go, guys. Save any questions for the end if I have missed them, where I want to try and fit stuff in. Via dissection is zooming in on a single word, usually, yeah. Matthew, you wouldn't get a... I wouldn't give marks for one paragraph, but, you know, maybe 5, 6. Yeah. Bambi, can you say invokes pathos for emotive language? Yeah, for sure. That would be an effect of emotive language. Invokes pathos, exactly. All right, guys. Let's go. Let's go. All right, so for question 5. For question 5, this is the question that you have. This is for AQA. For anyone just joining, this is for AQA. Questions are fairly similar on different questions, but this is AQA. No worries, Jago. All right, so question 5. Here is the statement you're given. Opportunities don't just happen by accident. In order to succeed in life, you have to have a good education and take every opportunity that is presented to you. You make your own luck. Write a speech for an audience of young people in which you argue your views on this statement. So it's 40 marks, of which 24 are for content and organization and 16 marks are for technical accuracy. All right. So, okay. What does GASP stand for? Okay, so this is how you identify what the question is really asking you. Okay, what is the question actually asking you? What does GASP stand for? What does GASP stand for, my friends? What do you think? What are we saying? Genre, thank you. Genre, which is your text type. And people are saying that you've got, you know, article, speech, letter. Okay. What is the A for? Thank you so much, guys. It is indeed your audience. Beautiful. What's the S? Thank you, Ashal. It is your subject, which is the focus. And then purpose. Purpose. Thank you, Angie. P for purpose. Okay. So it's really, really beneficial to do this little process before you start planning and writing. Why? Why is it valuable to know the genre, the audience, the subject, and the purpose before you get cracking with your writing / planning? Ooh. Sorry, what's going on here? My green screen's on a mad one. Get off my back, son. Get off me. What are you doing? You want to fight me now? Thank you. Okay. So you don't get lost. It determines the style. Yeah, exactly. It's because, guys, for AO5 in the mark scheme, AO5 in the mark scheme talks about adapting for form, audience, and purpose. Okay? Form literally just means the genre. I don't call it FASP because it's less catchy. Okay? Okay, so in the mark scheme, it specifically states for AO5, you're adapting your writing for form, audience, and purpose. Okay, so the majority of your marks for AO5, which is 24 marks, right? And the 16 for AO6, they're going to come from that, the way that you adapt your writing. Okay, why do we include subject in there as well then? Well, that's just because this is what you're writing about. This is your subject. It's the focus of the text. Okay, so genre. What is the genre of this? What's the form or text type or genre of the text that you're going to be writing here? What would it be? What is it? Was it his dog? No, it was my green screen was climbing on my back, fighting me. Moji Shorts, what do you think about starting with question 5? Totally valid, absolutely fine. As long as you still do things in time, it's all good. Okay, well done, guys. Easily speech. Okay. What about your audience? Who's the audience? Thank you, Shanzay. It is your audience as young people. What is the subject? Like, what's the subject? What are you focusing on? Young'uns, young guns, sound like exactly young people, youth, adolescents, cool. And what's the subject? What's it about? What do you think? Education. It is a bit about school, but it's mostly about, if you have a look at the phrase, it's a little bit disparate, but it's about opportunities, it's about luck, accident, it's about education, taking opportunity. It's basically the balance between, I guess it's like success equals, luck versus preparation, I guess, is the general theme of it, right? It's talking about, are you prepared with a good education, taking every opportunity, or is it all about luck, accidents versus luck? Accidents and luck, and the kind of the opportunities that you were given is like the success, right? Meritocracy for sure, Bambi. Yeah. You can bring in any knowledge you have from other areas, and the purpose is what? What's the purpose of this one? Do you think? What do we think for the? What's the purpose? What's the purpose of your speech? To persuade, Mr. UCL, yeah, for sure. It specifically says write a speech in which you argue your views. Yeah. So argue, but it's because it's your views, it's all persuasive, right? This question is always going to be persuasive, okay? Inspire, someone has said. Yeah, for sure. Okay. Jalab, yeah, of course you could include an anecdote of how you currently feel during your exams. Yeah, nice. Okay. Then basically, guys, when you have all this stuff in mind, you need to remember, don't you, that because it's a speech, you're going to need to have your greeting. You're going to need to have your direct address, right? You're going to need to have your, what else? Like your, I guess, mission statement you would have typically when you're starting a piece like this. When it comes to young people, you're going to be relevant. Okay, you're going to avoid patronizing. You're going to be less formal. What do I mean when I say less formal? Why don't I say informal? Why don't I say informal? Greetings, fellow young'uns. Nini, yeah, that'll have people on your side. Now, did I used to cram like this before exams? For some of them, yeah. But I was aiming for straight A stars. This is AQA coffee. Yeah, exactly, Radiant. Because informal is bad, okay? So it's academic, as Senor B said, but still for young people, okay? So you don't want it to be informal. Never write informal, because informal, it'd be like, what's cracking my G's, buckle up and I'm going to lay some heavy stuff on you. Like, obviously no one actually talks like that for the first thing, but equally, it's not going to be an opportunity for you to demonstrate your intelligence. Okay. This stuff, we're going to be focusing on what goes in your actual speech over on our plan. And arguing and persuading, a lot of people use, daforist or aphorist or whatever. It's basically just being persuasive. Some people even like to do logos, ethos, and pathos, which is quite an academic way of bringing Aristotle into it. But hey ho, these are the kind of things that you're thinking about. You don't need to write all of this stuff down. You just need to be thinking about it when you identify what the gasp is of your speech. Okay? Tachozi, no worries, buddy. Feel free to come back and watch the rest of this later on. We're probably going to overrun a little bit. Pray, yeah, you're going to write in a way that young people will understand, essentially, but you're not going to patronize them and you're not going to treat them like they are all roadmen. Exactly. All right. How important is genre? If you don't do it, will you be penalized? Megan, to be honest, it's the least important one, but you still need to be making some kind of a nod to it. Okay? Grasp the gasp. You got it, Ishal. That is exactly it. Anecdotes are goated for this question, Reshman. I 100% agree. So I actually did a TikTok the other day. I don't know if any of you follow me on TikTok. But kind of the point is, if you start, like we as human beings learn through stories. So starting with an acronym is wicked. Bambi, patronizing is where you talk down to people. So you don't want to talk down to them, make them feel like they are like less intelligent or serious than you, basically. Hopefully that answers your question, Bambi. All right. Which paper is the one with creative writing in it? Yeah. All right. Okay. We're going to jump in. Okay. So if we think about our plan, I would say probably 4 paragraphs. So obviously we're going to have our greeting first. Okay. Then we're going to have maybe 4 paragraphs, and the focus can be on a few different things. Actually, let me just tidy that up. So you have your greeting, then your 4 main body paragraphs, and maybe at the end you might have a kind of a farewell and CTA. Does anyone know what CTA stands for? Because it's quite valuable in this situation. What does CTA stand for? Anyone got any thoughts? Isn't 4 paragraphs too short? So Orion, so it's 4 main body paragraphs and your greeting and farewell at the end. You can have there as well. Call to action. Nice one, guys. Call to action. Okay, so you want something to be done by your audience at the end. Okay, so your call to action. And I like to kind of freestyle my greeting and call to action, but I like to plan my main body paragraphs. Okay, so catch the ants. Love that. Okay, so my first paragraph I think is a really powerful way to start with an anecdote. And as this idea is all about opportunities, accident, education, success, making your own luck, taking opportunities, I might do an anecdote about a job interview, which helps to solidify the subject, okay, which is all this stuff, but also a little bit of ethos, which is basically, who am I? Why would you listen to me? An anecdote, for those asking, is a short story which demonstrates the point that you're making. Okay? Thomas Walker, will you need your calculator for this exam? I would bring 2 calculators just to be safe. Okay? Personal story, that's what an anecdote is. Okay? My second paragraph, I would probably go from the anecdote, I would go into big picture. Okay? So I would do my kind of statistics, research and I would probably do the power of yes. Okay, because this bit here talks about you have to take every opportunity that's presented to you. That's the power of yes, right? It sounds like a self-help book, but whatever. We don't have to actually make stuff up. All right. Okay. Third paragraph might be something like, so once we've done our anecdote and our big picture, we can then focus on the kind of the nuance. So I might go into kind of like luck versus preparation here. And I could talk about how people are like, some people are just born lucky. Some people are given loads of like money and support and great genes from their parents and whatever. And some people are, rise up from the gutter and they have to focus all on their preparation and blah, blah, blah. So that would be a nice way of kind of picking out the nuance. And then my final bit might be a kind of my guidance. Okay, so the guidance of something like maybe my golden rules to thrive. And I can turn that into a cute little acronym. So THRIVE. I'm doing this on the spot, guys. So take opportunities. Right, this is a bit gimmicky, but whatever. Have faith in you. Read and learn lots. Invest in you. It's a bit like have faith in you, but invest. Viewpoint or attitude is everything. And E for energy and enigmas. Let's go with energy. So energy comes and goes. You need discipline. Yo. Okay, so the only thing that I would say in this plan that is potentially missing is an opportunity to actually argue, because this statement here is not very controversial, is it? The only opportunity I have to do a bit of controversy is to break apart this idea of luck versus preparation, okay? Because that's the only thing where there is some controversy. Opportunities don't happen by accident. You have to have this, take opportunity. That would be an opportunity to explore like luck and, I guess, privilege versus preparation and hard work, right? So that would be my opportunity to break apart someone else's arguments. Sorry, Bambi. Ethos is credibility, yes. Pathos is like your emotive language, yes. And logos is logic. Correct. Well done. What was number 3? Number 3, nuance is where you break apart these parts. Okay? Nuance is like going into like the detail and the subtleties and picking about those details. Okay? And it's usually an opportunity for you to challenge like counter arguments and stuff. Mia, what do you think we're going to get for question 5? Do you have no idea? There's no way of predicting what's going to come up for question 5. I mean, it could be, it's more often a speech than anything else, which is why we're focusing on a speech tonight. But they can have any of those 3. Can I start with hello, fellow readers? Amelia, I mean, you're doing a speech to an audience of young people. I probably wouldn't greet them as readers. Okay. SW is saying, I'm saying fact paragraph, anecdote paragraph, emotive paragraph, intro and call for action. Yeah, that's a nice structure. Yeah. Moji, an enigma. So enigma, if something is enigmatic, it means that you can't quite put your finger on it. It's quite mysterious. Ethos, your ethos in this thing is where you are trying to get people to believe in you, trust in you. It won't be an essay, ML. It's not going to be an essay. Can you add humour, Adam, if it seems relevant to the topic and to the form and audience that you've got? You can, of course, bring some humour in there. Okay. Bambi, a call to action is where you get your audience to actually do something off the back of what you've done. SW, yeah, good advice. Don't use overly complicated things that you don't understand. Focus on what you know. What does it say after V? Viewpoint / attitude is everything. Hello, young listeners. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. Mia, yeah, for sure. But remember that you are, you are a young person too. Issa, I will answer that question at the end. So guys, any Q&A stuff that relates to different text types, I'm happy to answer at the end. But I'm going to show you how I would go about answering this. I'm not going to do the whole thing because I want to be able to fit in time to do a Q&A. But I will show you how I would start strong. Okay. So I'm going to start with my greeting. Okay. And my greeting is going to acknowledge that these are young people and basically like what we're here for, right? Hyper, yeah, of course you can bring in a religious viewpoint, if kind of challenging this concept of luck and challenging the concept of making your own, if it's God-given rather than something that you are in control of, for sure. Cal's D, how much do I bench? 180 kilos. How much do you bench? How long do we have, Shannon? We're going to go for another 20 minutes probably. And then we're going to do some Q&As to round it off. All right, my friends. Okay. So thrive, I just made up. I just made that up. Golden rules for thrive. So if you thrive, you succeed. Take opportunities. Have faith in you. So this is like nonsense self-help book stuff that I would never really say with any seriousness. Okay. Do you have to show balance, Bambi? No. All right. Let's go. Okay. So I'm going to go straight in with Thank you all. So a bit of flattery is a really good way to get your audience on side, right? So thank you all so much for showing me how much you care about this topic that we all know is pretty central to our prosperity in life. I appreciate you and your time. Okay? It's basically it's basically nonsense, right? The greeting of any of these things, because it's not necessarily going to be relevant to what you're talking about, it's just a little bit of a nod to the fact that this is a speech, so people are here listening to you. This is your greeting, okay? Your greeting is thanking them for being there. You can say hi, right? Hi, if you want to. Absolutely fine to make it a literal greeting. But a greeting is just where you are welcoming people, thanking them for being there. And then you're going to go into basically straight into your anecdote. Okay, so just for those of you wondering what I'm doing here, right? Showing me how much you care. Okay, and we all know our prosperity. Okay, so we've got basically creating unity. Okay, your audience is immediately on side. Okay, we agree on this. You care about this. I care about it. We all know it's central to our prosperity. We have a shared universal experience. And I appreciate you connecting these two things together. I appreciate you and your time. Okay, so it's just a nice little bit of flattery, yeah? Tabby, can you not use shame against a reader instead? I wouldn't recommend it. Not if you're trying to get them on side. Okay? Do you have to have a lot of variety in punctuation? You don't have to have a lot of variety, but you do need a little bit of variety. So that's why I put in an M dash here. Okay. Thomas, can you use DeForest format for any of the genres? Yeah, all of them. What do we do if it's not a speech? Levi, I can answer any questions about the other text types at the end. Can you use the same greeting? Yeah, honestly, you can use pretty much this exact greeting because it doesn't specify anything about the question. It's just building rapport, okay? So that opening sentence is building rapport, okay? So a relationship with your audience, okay? You're creating unity between you and your audience. And it's fairly generic, okay? Then we're going to go straight in with our first paragraph, which was going to be about an anecdote about a job interview, okay? Don't say, I'm going to share an anecdote with you. Just launch straight in, okay? When I was... Okay, now, just to clarify, guys, you don't have to be you, okay? When you're writing this speech, you can imagine yourself as being anybody you want to be. So considering that you were imparting wisdom to your audience, you can pretend to be, 30, 40, 50 if you want. Cameron Quinn, do you need ambitious vocab? Yeah. Okay. So you don't have to be you. So there is no requirement, number one, for you to share your actual views or for you to share your actual experience, okay? So you can make up your own context. So you might want to say, when I was 25, right? When I was 25. Chelsea, you've said okay about 1,000 times. 1,001 now. You're going to imagine yourself as Socrates. Yeah, go for it. Love a bit of Socrates. Okay, so when I was 25. When I was 25. Okay, so I'm going straight in with my anecdote. And what's my anecdote about? Showing who I am, reviewing this subject about accidents and luck. Okay, when I was 25, I went for my first job interview after graduating. Okay? Raising my head above the parapet, dipping my toe into the murky waters of the real world. I was nervous. I over prepared. Okay, so just a quick little thing, a quick little kind of point about what I'm doing here. Number one, okay, I am giving a bit of context for my anecdote, okay? Then I'm using two recognizable idioms, okay? So idioms, they are casual figures of speech that show that I am I'm a young person. Bambi, I would love to use a pink pen, but there's no pink option. It's pretty gutting, okay? And then murky waters, again, I'm being idiomatic, okay? And what I'm doing here is I'm appealing to my young audience, okay? Because I'm not being super formal. Oh my goodness. You guys, I just lost my camera. This is wild. Bear with me a second, guys. My camera just fell off. That has never happened to me before. So just give me a second. Where'd Louis go? Louis is still here, don't worry. But Louis has lost the camera. Oh, this is crazy. Oh no. You guys, this is wild. Hey yo. Guess who's back? Back again. Louis Does English is back. Feel free to tell a friend. All right, let me just adjust my... No, wait. Is that right? Sorry, guys. My green screen's having a moment as well. Hey, there we go. Sorry about that. My sincere apologies. Just ignore the green screen here. Let's pretend let's pretend that didn't just happen. It's never happened to me at home, but I'm at the London offices today. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to point out is I am demonstrating here a super short sentence after a long one. Okay. Now, you don't need to do any kind of like any intensely clever stuff here. You just need to be ticking a couple of boxes. All right. Mia, can I reply to your question? Feel free to ask it again. As you can probably tell, I didn't look at the chat for a minute or two because I was trying to sort out, my entire life. How valuable are short sentences? I feel like you're never going to get them in realistically. Well, that's an easy opportunity. If you've just done a long sentence, think about how you can slot in a short one. Okay. Right, my apologies. Okay, we're back. Okay, so when I was 25, I went for my first job interview after graduating. Raising my head above the parapet, dipping my toe in the murky waters of the real world, I was nervous. I over-prepared. Now I'm going to go straight in, okay? Looks like the camera's slowly slipping. Oh, don't say that. Don't say that. You're going to give you super anxiety. Cleopatra, yeah, the spider followed me all the way to London. Can I rate Theo Roberts' bench of 50 while weighing 100? Oh, it's decent. I mean, you want to aim for something above your body weight in the bench long term, but yeah. All right, let's go. Okay, so the point that I'm trying to make with my anecdote here is about luck and how you can make your own. Okay, so some could argue that I was lucky to acquire a 4-figure salary. So I'm using a hyphen here to show that I can use all sorts of vocabulary. Some say that I was lucky to acquire a 4-figure salary straight out of uni. But I don't see it that way. Okay, so notice I can use a contraction like don't, but I don't want to go super informal, but I'm still appealing to my younger audience. Teddy, is 125k bench good at 76? Yeah, it is good. Totally good. All right, okay. But I don't see it that way. Now is my opportunity to use several rhetorical questions. Okay. So Georgia Rose, now I'm not saying didn't see it that way. I'm saying I don't see it that way. Looking back, I'm reflecting on it. Okay. So, but I don't see it that way. And now I'm going to ask some rhetorical questions. Was it lucky that I busted a gut to graduate at the top of my class? Was it lucky that I spent 6 months ML, I can't really help you with that. An idiom is a figure of speech, for those of you asking. Sorry if I missed it the first time around. I'm trying to balance writing the model answer whilst also responding to your questions. Okay. Was it lucky that I spent 6 months researching job openings that corresponded to my unique skill set? Okay, so here is my nice Bambi, big up the replies, helping out. Bambi, have I missed one of yours? My bad. Feel free to ask again. Okay, so let's just quickly read this anecdote. When I was 25, I went for my first job interview after graduating. Raising my head above the parapet, dipping my toe into the murky waters of the real world, I was nervous. I over-prepared. Some could argue that I was lucky to acquire a 4-figure salary straight out of university, but I don't see it that way. Was it lucky that I busted a gut to graduate at the top of my class? Was it lucky that I spent 6 months researching job openings that corresponded with my unique skill set? Of course not. Okay, another short sentence after a barrage of questions. It's a great rhetorical question a great rhetorical technique to ask a bunch of questions and then to answer them. It's been done since the dawn of time. Mia, great question. You can say thank you at the beginning and the end. Yeah. Guys, any question you have about different text type, I will ask. I will answer in a minute. Bambi, busted a gut. It's another idiom. It's where you worked really hard. Okay. Okay, guys. So I would then go into my next paragraph, which is big picture. So why do I start with an anecdote and then go into big picture? Why do I start with the anecdote and then go into big picture? Steezy, I'd love to show you my dog, but I'm in London and my dog is at home near Birmingham. So unless I quickly ran about 100 miles and brought him back, no. ML, there's no such thing as a specific number of lines or sentences for a top mark anecdote. It's whatever serves the purpose. Anecdote is a short personal story that's relevant to the point. Okay, so the whole point, right, of the starting with an anecdote is to make it personal with a specific story that people can care about and buy into. And then you go bigger and you talk about the grander scale things, okay? So if you start small, you get them to care about the little stuff, and then you go big and you show how broadly applicable that small stuff is, okay? Can you start a sentence with a conjunction? Hey, boy. It's kind of non-standard English, but it's also a very common feature. Yeah. Okay, so my next paragraph was going to be about the big picture. Okay, so the research on the power of yes. Okay, so my next paragraph. I'm not going to write the whole thing, by the way, guys. I'm just going to sort of show you the general things that I'm thinking as I go through answering a question like this. I've shown you the overall structure. Now I'm going into the details. Okay. Exam QA, I'm good, buddy. How are you? What was it about? Big picture. A nice way of linking from an anecdote to the big picture is, but that's just me. What about you? Okay, so a nice little way of linking from small picture to big picture. Okay, again, you don't need to use the phrase big picture to show that you're going bigger, but you're going to go straight in. Okay, so, but that's just me. What about you? Well, discourse marker to show that this is spoken language. Okay, it would be a bit informal for a letter or an article, but spoken language, you can use discourse markers like this to start your sentences. Well, the fact is that there is a let's throw in the odd bit of impressive vocabulary here. So yeah, you're writing a TED talk, Sam Locke. Exactly. So, well, the fact is that there is a plethora. Okay, so I'm going to show off a bit of vocab here. A plethora of research to underpin what we're talking about. It's not just me. But the academic community. And let's lay it on even thicker. In full force. Unequivocally. Ooh, what a sentence. Okay, so, but that's just me. What about you? Well, the fact is, okay, so I'm being quite assertive with my language here. There is a plethora, I'm impressing them with my vocabulary without losing my audience, of research to underpin what we're talking about today. Again, so if you think about plethora, showing off, we're being relatable. So you get a balance here. Talking about today, semicolon, to show an examiner I can do it, and I'm doing a related sentence, is not just me, but the academic community in full force, M-dash, unequivocally, another impressive bit of vocabulary, okay? So I'm really, really laying it on thick, that I'm being both academic and relatable. Travis Scott. Hi, sir. Do you like Travis Scott? I don't know Travis Scott. Sorry. Unicorn. You can get marks for a plan even if you don't finish writing. That is true. Yeah. But obviously it's never going to be as many marks as you would get for writing it out. Okay. For those asking about plethora, plethora is like a big range, a broad range. Okay. Yeah, a discourse marker is just anything that signals what your sentence is about to be about. Okay, so in this case, well is signaling that I'm about to explain something. Okay, guys, so Obviously, this is just the beginning to a speech. We're not going to write the whole thing, but I've shown you how I would plan it out, thinking from anecdote to big picture, breaking down the nuance, and then giving some kind of guidance leading into a call to action. I've shown the things that I'm thinking of, how I'm targeting my audience, how I'm making it look like a speech, how I'm addressing the subject, how I'm suiting my purpose of being persuasive and getting my argument across. And I've shown you just the beginnings of how I would go through that process. Okay, a couple of key questions. Bambi, how do we use a semicolon? Key thing with a semicolon. If you would have two sentences on the same topic, you can replace your full stop with a semicolon and then you don't need a capital letter. Okay, so both bits either side of the semicolon need to make sense on their own and they both need to be about the same topic. Okay, someone has just said, one question, do we need to use real life facts in our question 5? No, you can make it up entirely, okay? So in this paragraph that I'm starting here, I would go in to make up some research that sounds plausible about the effect of saying yes to things or being prepared for things or how working hard pays off and stuff. How much do I pay my mods? We both work for the same company, so I don't pay them. Right, guys, let's lead into our Q&A. I'll try and answer a few questions before we end for the day. Mr. UCL, can you combine your anecdote paragraph with your emotive paragraph? Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say usually the best thing about anecdotes is that they are emotive. They get your audience to care about stuff before you go in. How many times would we need to use punctuation like semicolons and colons? To be honest, Fahad, I would try and use just one semicolon, one colon is usually going to be enough. Maybe the odd dash and hyphen. Don't overdo the punctuation because it's just going to make you sound like you're losing control of things, okay? Because they're usually a bit intense when you have punctuation all over the place. Most of what you're doing is a sentence, is full stops and commas, and obviously apostrophes where they're relevant. What are we saying? What's normally featured in an article or letter? So in terms of how to show that it's an article, use a headline and then use a lead. A headline or like heading is where you kind of draw your audience in. And a lead is like a 5 W's about the who, what, when, where, why that you're talking about. Then you're going to go in with your kind of ethos paragraph establishing who you are, etc., etc. Okay, for a letter, you need to be a bit more formal and structured with a letter. So you're going to have an address. You don't need to write out the address in full, just address. You got your greeting, you got your subject line, you got a mission statement. Then you're going to go into your main body, and the main body is going to be relatively similar to what we've just done in terms of like kind of breaking down your argument. Disciple, does the information have to be real? No, definitely not. Definitely not. You're not being assessed on your knowledge of random obscure topics. You're being assessed on your ability to use language effectively. Unicorn, is it more powerful to do just one side of the argument instead of both sides? Yes, absolutely. You need to acknowledge the other side of the argument, but really you're explaining why it's wrong if you're arguing. Ishal, I made up the power of yes. It's about positive thinking. I literally just made it up on the spot, okay? And I would pretend there's research to back it up because I'm trying to be convincing, you know? Floof, how would you start a formal speech? You would start with something like, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me immense pleasure to gather you all here today on this esteemed occasion at this prestigious event, whereupon we will be addressing the topic of, okay, so it's obviously just more formal, a bit more grandiose, and you're appealing to usually to adults. Yeah? Farah, if you know the person in a letter, you sign off with yours sincerely. Yours faithfully as if you don't know them. Okay. Jesse, will they ask us to write an essay? No. Essay is not for this part of the paper. You'd only get an essay on section A. I don't know why people are asking about essay this year. A lot of people have asked me that question. What's the effect of a metaphor? Hal, depends on the metaphor. No worries, Ashal. Is a headline a necessity? Because from a website I heard it's not. You would want a heading. Doesn't have to be a headline. Fahad, you would use a dash. So there are two ways to use a dash. So a dash can be used instead of brackets, so parenthetically, or they can be used just to tag on an extra clause to the end of a sentence. It's usually like an afterthought. Okay. Can you use fake data? Sakuna, absolutely. And you should, because there's no reason you would go in with a bunch of memorized statistics about a subject you haven't been told about in advance. Chelsea, how do you write the other person's address in a letter? Okay, so the other person's address, it goes above where you're greeting them. So on the left, and you can literally just say like Dr. Bunny at blah, 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 and then go straight into Dear Dr. Bunny or whatever. You're not going to be asked to write a review, Akasoa, not for AQA anyway, because the purpose is all about arguing and reviews are a different skill. Structure for an article, emoji shorts, it's going to be basically the exact same, apart from you would have a heading and a lead, which is like 5 W's to kind of give a summary of what's going ahead soon. 2 days later, in terms of like the letter, with the address, you can just make it up and you don't need to go into detail. If you literally just put a box saying address and then wrote your letter and then went back and just scribbled a really quick, silly example, that would be fine. I've seen questions where people have got 35 plus out of 40 and they haven't even written an address out in full. Revising for my GCSEs, start with question 5. You can do. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you make sure to move on to section A at the right time when you're done. Timing per question, Bambi. So I say 15 minutes at the start of section B to do your text mastery, and then 1 minute per mark, and then 10 minutes for planning section B, 10 minutes for planning section B, the writing section, and then obviously 40 minutes there. Chelsea, you heard articles require bullet points. They don't. SW, address isn't really relevant, waste of time. Yeah, I agree. Like I said, it's really not what you're going to be gaining your marks for. Is it possible to get a leaflet for AQA question 5? To be honest, Ash, a leaflet's going to be the same as an article in terms of the way that you structure it. And it's unlikely you get a leaflet because leaflets are usually about explaining things rather than persuading. And the whole purpose of AQA section B for paper 2 is about writing argumentatively or persuasively. If you get the address wrong, you won't lose marks. Correct 2 days later. It would be absurd to lose marks. Yeah, maybe 1 mark for just having utter nonsense, just random places on the page, but you're not gaining enough marks for your addresses to lose big marks for getting them wrong. Do we need the title for a speech as a teacher says we do? No, Lola, because it's spoken language. No one's going to see the title of your speech unless it's a TED talk and you've got it broadcast on the wall behind you. So no. Articles use headings, subheadings. Yeah, it's basically the same, SW. You're absolutely right. Are you a teacher, SW? I would say subheadings are problematic. Honestly, I probably wouldn't use subheadings in an article. Examiners have said the same thing in their examiner reports in previous years, that usually students who use subheadings in articles end up writing random unconnected paragraphs, and therefore they lose their way. Chelsea, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much. Really glad to have you here. ZZZ. What should you do if you run out of time for question 5? Plan your timing better. Like I said, if you get a minute per mark, once you've done your 15 minutes, then you won't run out of time to do it. So don't get into that situation would be my first piece of advice. But if you do, make sure you have at least a plan. And here, can we see my biceps? My biceps are on me at all times. If you happen to spot them, lucky you. Could you do a 1-word paragraph, Amelia? You could do. You could just have the word no as 1 paragraph and then go on to your next one. It's not necessarily going to be like a game changer for your examiner where they go, wow. Do you need a title for a letter, Afia? No. You can have a subject line after you've done your greeting, but you don't need a title. Mahek, so we were taught wrong this whole time. About what, buddy? About what? Mariam, my pleasure. My absolute pleasure. Shanzi, SW, if Louis consider you a teacher, you're definitely getting a 9. It's got some really good advice tonight. SW, yeah, thinking big picture, where you mentioned time and society, going big picture, it's a nice way to show the kind of the significance beyond just your single examples. Yeah, that's legit. Great advice tonight, SW. Thank you for joining me and sharing your wisdom. Always appreciated. Nahum, I'm not sure how you'd add facts and statistics for question 5. Just make it up. Make it up. Make them relevant to your point, Nahum. Revising for my GCSEs, should you sacrifice geography for English? Realistically, if you don't think you're going to pass English, then yes, put all your energy into English because you need to pass your English to move on to the next things in your life, whereas geography you don't. Obviously, I love geography-ish. Sorry, there's loads of questions coming up. I think I've answered most of these. Can we get a backflip? AM, there's not really enough space. You didn't really see when the camera came on, but I'm in a pod, which is like I can touch the wall from here, and the wall is just here on this side as well. So no. Megan, for question 4, should you talk about why the writers have their perspectives, like if they're talking about another person or themselves? Yeah, I mean, there's no harm in doing so. I think it would probably be quite wise. Moji Shorts, off topic, but what's one piece of advice you would tell your younger self at our age? Don't take yourself so seriously. Work hard, but don't think that you're very special. The more humble you are, the more people you will like you. And if you are both liked and competent and successful, you will be successful in life. Ria, gonna miss you too, buddy. Which piece of format asks for a headline? That would be in an article, but it wouldn't be a headline, it would be a heading. Headline is more for a newspaper article. Okay. Tensu, I'm not going to guess at what form it's going to be. It has an equal chance of being any of those 3. Mehek going to get glammed up after the English exam. Slay. Are you marked on vocab in section A? Unicorn Sisters, no. Only on section B for this one. Cleo, really glad to hear that. You got this, buddy. Isla, really glad to hear that. Let me know how you get on. I'm going to post a TikTok tomorrow morning. And we can all have a chat about how it went. Revising for my GCSE. So I want to go to Cambridge. Do I need all 9s? I mean, most people going to Oxford and Cambridge have got all 8s and 9s with the occasional 7, unless there were very specific circumstances that stopped them. For me, when I went to Oxford, I had 13 A stars and an A. So technically an A would be like a 7, and that was in drama. So you don't necessarily need straight 9s. 2 days later, you can just go on Trustpilot and search My Headspace if you want to. Alternatively, if you clicked on that QR code earlier, you will be sent a link to review the session at the end as well. But if you want to just do it off your own back, then jump off and you can just go on to Trustpilot and search My Headspace. Floof, do we get marked more on tone of voice or language technique? What do you mean, Floof? For which question? Cameron Quinn, you won't get a newspaper article because you're not going to be asked to report the news. You would get a kind of like an opinion article, and you would just have your heading, your lead, and then your main body, just the same as the speech that we discussed. What are we seeing? No more lessons with you, Nahom. I'll miss you, buddy. Difference between heading and headline. So a headline is for a newspaper article where you're saying, this thing happened. Whereas a heading is just like an overview of, this is what this article is about. Eva, a leaflet's not going to come up now. Because a leaflet is an instructional, informative piece. So no. Maz, what are my tattoos? I would be here all night, buddy. I've got loads. Fahad, what colour suit is most appropriate for prom? I'd go with a gold sequin suit personally, but it's up to you. Bambi, are we only simply inferring for question 2? Yeah. You're going to do your synthesis, bringing the text together, and then inferring. Nahom, of course I will. Of course I will. Amelia, do you write about the effect on the reader for question 3 and 4? You can do, just don't do an extra sentence about it. If you talk about the effect of language, you don't have to say, this makes the reader feel. You can just say, blah, 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 given the impact of. You don't even need to mention the reader necessarily. Lamisa, it's a sad time, right? Related to the Oxbridge question, is medical conditions late hospital trips? Yeah, if you have an absolutely banging reference from your UCAS coordinator at sixth form, then you can sometimes explain why some of your grades weren't at the very top. But they might still pick people who did get the grades because it's a safer bet for them, basically. Right, guys, I'm going to hop off now because I'm bear hungry, which means hungry like a bear. And I'm going to say goodbye forever. I will miss you all very, 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 very much. You might be pleased to know that if any of you are doing A-level English literature, we're planning to launch an A-level English course next year. Tensu, you should have good GCSEs and A-levels for university, yeah, if it's a competitive uni. Amber, one of the OGs, my friend. Guys, absolute pleasure working with you. If you have any more questions that I haven't had time for tonight, because I'm starting to get lightheaded from the lack of food, just drop me a message on TikTok and I'll try and answer it tonight. My handle on TikTok and YouTube is obviously at Louis Does English. But yeah, if you found this useful, jump over to Trustpilot, write us a review. It'd be amazing. You guys are the best. I will see you. I'll see you soon. Yeah, drop me a message or a comment on TikTok. Thank you for your time tonight. It's always a pleasure. You guys are going to smash it. Absolute faith. See you guys.